Happy Monday.
Hey, and happy should I say belated Juneteenth? Can I say that?
Yeah, you can.
you know,
we
we inching closer to another national holiday.
What
Got
day is
about
it? July
let's
4th, right?
see.
July 4th.
No, it's one before that. On the 23rd. You know what I'm saying? A king was born. You know what I'm saying? A swan came into the
Swan,
world. You know.
Swan Day.
You know what? That's not a bad idea. That's what we should call that, Swan Day. No
Well,
doubt.
look, yeah, and maybe it'll take it about 200 years to become an actual federal holiday. So
Look,
if it
can
took
the
that long, for,
can the can the
if
church
it
say amen?
if it took that long for Juneteenth to become a holiday, good luck on Swan Day.
I know, right, man? But once again, man, welcome back to the Rooted in Sports podcast. Me and old King Tiberius, man. Got a few topics we're gonna hit today, man. We're gonna give a little NBA Finals recap. Kind of maybe just kind of figure out what went wrong for Boston and what they can possibly do to maybe get back there. We also gonna get into our the final stage of our Rooted in Basketball segment. So we're gonna go through. We're gonna pretty much finish out the rest of the lottery picks. So we'll go 11 through 15 today, and then
because this draft is on Thursday.
yeah, it's on Swan Day. Which FYI, shameless plug, early plug. We will be live for the NBA draft. You know what I'm saying? We will do the whole first round. So y'all tune in. Don't worry, we'll plug that quite a few times today. But yeah, and then we're gonna get into some pretty controversial comments from one Bart Scott comparing Peyton Manning and Tom Brady. So we'll get into that, and then we're gonna just real quickly we're gonna kind of debate as to who the best wide receiver in the league is. In particular, we're gonna chime in particular on two guys, one in Devontae Adams and another in Cooper Kupp. So yeah, man, it should be a real fun episode, man. Thank everybody for tuning in and that's about to tune in. And man, let's get into it.
And just like that, we are back.
Word.
Right, and ready to jump into some action. Obviously, the parade was today.
Yeah.
The Warriors.
Man, that boy Klay Thompson was acting a fool out there, boy.
Hey, I mean that's when you win, you get the right to do that.
Man, yeah, and he deserves it, man. He been out for two consecutive seasons, man. He's been through a lot, and he deserves it, and they deserve it. You know what I'm saying? They really proved a lot of doubters wrong, and they deserved it. I was extremely happy to see them go ahead and finish it off. I had them in 7. They ended up winning in 6. So I was extremely happy to see them win.
Look, he finally got me, guys. He finally got me. Every freaking round, I've been correct on Boston. Boston is hit. I almost rode them to the promised land, but obviously they wasn't able to finish up.
And I think Boston really shocked some people this year. They kind of overachieved. I think they were this year's
you said
Phoenix
overachieved?
Yeah, I think they when you I'm saying
what
overachieved.
What you say? Okay. In what sense?
I'm saying overachieved in the sense of at the beginning of this season, nobody was saying Boston would make it to the finals. And then when you seen how they started and you seen them probably up until the All-Star break, you would have never assumed that this team would turn it around in the manner that they did and get to the NBA finals, So that's why I say they kind of overachieved as far as what expectations were for them as a team.
Well, some people call it they call this, I've heard people refer to this as the greatest turnaround in NBA history. And I honestly maybe can't even disagree, because if we were to look at them mid-season, I mean, they didn't even look like I mean, I ain't gonna lie. Sometimes they look so bad that they look like they would end up being in the play-in.
Yeah.
Let alone
out of the playoffs
altogether, right?
Yeah. I mean, they turned it around. Emi Udoka got them really bought into his defensive principles. and they turned it around. Jason Tatum, at least for a little while, he was playing some really good, sound basketball, and they as a team were as well. But I think that they just got to the finals and lost to a more battle-tested, a more resilient, and just a better team.
And we argue about this all the time over the sports, and Bo, and shout out to Bo and a million other guys that come in the Rooted in Sports community on Saturdays. I still feel like Boston was the more talented. I think if we were looking at like how the two teams match up with each other, I stand on this. I die on this hill alone. I felt like it was an uphill battle for Golden State. But Boston was so undisciplined. I think they showed all their flaws, any flaws that they had during the regular season, turning the ball. Obviously, you mentioned this time and time again, them not having a true playmaker to put people in position and really spread the floor. They didn't have that at all. And I guess once they made it to the final, somehow they was able to make it past the Nets and the Bucks and the Miami Heat, which is impressive. I think that speaks to how talented of a team that they really are. That despite their flaws, they were able to beat those teams. But ultimately, they played a more disciplined team. And if you really watch each game, it wasn't like Golden State just ran through them. I mean, they probably I know they had a couple big third quarters, but they just edged them out, and they scored when it mattered. They were able to close out games when it mattered. And I think that's where you saw they were really bad situationally when it came to scoring. They turned the ball over a whole hell of a lot. And Jesus Christ, their shot selection was atrocious.
Yeah, I push back on that a little bit because I still think if you look at their both teams' rosters top to bottom, I still think that Golden State has a more talented team. I think that Boston coming into the series, I thought that they matched up very well with Golden State, especially with that core group of 7 or 8 guys that they had kind of dwindled, their playing time down with. I thought that they matched up well with Golden State. And I think that, like you said, though, I mean, I think they really killed themselves with turnovers and poor shot selection. You know what I'm saying? They really kind of killed themselves. I mean, well, Jason Tatum had the most turnovers of any player in the history in a playoff run in history.
It was 100, right?
90, like 96, 95, 96, something like that. I mean, far too many to say that, far too many, you know what I'm saying? And then in a closeout game 6, at home when they need you the most, you in with 13 points.
That's ridiculous. That's absolutely ridiculous.
I mean, yeah, and I'm not, once again, I don't blame it all on him. I will say that I think Andre Wiggins did a phenomenal job. And obviously Steph Curry was the finals MVP and he deserved it. There's an argument
that Andrew Wiggins should have been the finals MVP. And there's nothing against Steph because he had a phenomenal scoring. Obviously, he ended the game. What he said, had 32 points.
Yeah.
34 points, right? In game 6. But I could argue that Andrew Wiggins was their most important player.
Oh, yeah. And then you look at too, not only did he do a great job on Jason Tatum all series, like you really in these 6 games, there really wasn't one game where you just can say Jason Tatum like made his imprint, made his stamp on the game. He struggled he shot, just slightly over 30% for the series. You know what I'm saying? So Wiggins made it tough on them, all series long. And then on top of that, he gave them an extra offensive punch, especially in games where Klay Thompson didn't have it going, because Klay Thompson didn't have his best series. You know what I'm saying? No. It was a few games where Jordan Poole looked like the lights were just a little too bright for him. But, Steph Curry did what Steph Curry does. And
back.
And honestly, Andrew Wiggins was probably their most consistent second scorer on offense. He definitely was. As well as being their best defender in this series. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, and I just, I'm just so happy for him to
best defender.
Actually,
You said best.
He was the best defender in this series. I think he was the best defender in this series.
Draymond, I'm just playing. I know. I'm not trying to get you going, but go ahead.
he was the best defender in this series. And I just think I love that he got the opportunity to really kind of validate being a former number one pick and kind of validate, his career thus far, by going out here and putting up such a great effort and a great performance in the finals and getting him a championship ring, because I know it gotta hurt. You're drafted to a team and then you never even get to get traded right away. You never get to play for them. Then you go to a team with, so much young talent, but everyone is questioning your heart and questioning, your motor, which was kind of the question on him even coming out of college. Everyone knew he had the tools. He was athletic. But the questions on him coming out of college, out of his 1 year at Kansas was, could he develop a consistent enough jump shot? And did he have a high enough motor, And then for him to finally get into what I believe was the perfect situation for him this year in Golden State. Now, mind you, don't forget, whether you agree with it or not, he made his first All-Star game this year,
He did, yeah.
And he really got into a situation where there was just no pressure on him, All he needed to do was just go out there and just play his game, defend, play hard. And, he in a way, he kind of became the new Andre Iguodala for them.
I can see that. Oh, look, and probably more improved because he's younger and much more athletic than Andre Iguodala was when they won their first 1 or 2 championships.
Yeah, they and Golden State is a scary team moving forward. Like
they
still
probably another 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, they still got another few prime years out of Steph Curry and Klay Thompson and Draymond. And then Jordan Poole's young. They got the kid Jonathan Kuminga's young. They still got James Wiseman. He's young.
But I think I think they're going to get rid of him. I think they're going to shop him.
I know he's had
them to keep him.
He's had some injury problems. I know a lot of people were saying because the end of the year he started working out with their G League affiliate team. A lot of people were saying that he probably could have played if they didn't necessarily just have their roster and their chemistry already together.
So basically they were in a position where it was no rush to.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So I'm actually looking forward to seeing him next year and where he's progressing. Like I said, they just got a lot of young guys, that they can still kind of keep that culture. You know what I'm saying? So, when it's time for a Steph Curry or Klay and Drake, when it's time for those guys to step aside, they got guys who've already been in that culture for years, who've learned from the best, who've already won a championship.
Who can slide right in.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think they have a great mixture of experience and youth. And they're going to be around for a while. But you can say the same with Boston. I do think, speaking of, what they probably need to do to, get back there, I do think they need to make a decision.
Go on, say it.
Namely with Marcus Smart. I think they need to make a decision with Marcus Smart. And the reason I say that, I know that they love him. I know Boston, the city loves him, the team, the organization loves him. But they have to really figure out if they want to keep him there or if they want to try to shop him around and bring in a more prototypical point guard. Because I'm not sure, as their team is presently constructed, I'm not sure if they'll be able to win a championship with Marcus Smart as their starting point guard. He's not really a true point guard. So they might have a decision to make there.
And this is all right. So this is my thought on it. Only reason I don't see them moving off of Marcus Smart is because he is the perfect fit of what Ime Udoka wants to do defensively.
He is. He's their defensive leader. He's like their defensive anchor.
Yeah. Him and Robert Williams.
The first guard to win Defensive Player of the Year since Gary Payton.
Right. Yeah. Correct. So
small guard, should I say?
Small guard, right? But that's what's difficult for me. That's why I can't see them moving off him, just because he fits the bill for what Ime Udoka wants to do defensively. Now, when looking at options as far as bringing in playmaking, I mean, does it always have to? Let's look at today's NBA. Does it have to be a point guard? I mean, we have a lot of really solid passing big men. I mean, let's turn back the clock. You know, people forget this when Golden State won their first when they won that championship in 2015. Draymond was their main playmaker. As a matter of fact, I
Yeah.
think he led them in assist on the year. And as time progressed, you saw Steph become a better playmaker and a better distributor and see the floor a little bit better. So I mean, is it out of the realm of possibility that maybe they bring in another big man that is a really great passer and that could kind of
I say they
initiate the
need
offense?
some sort of point guard or point forward, but someone who can truly initiate offense for them um without turning the ball over. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Really kind of and I think it needs to be some sort of veteran presence. You know what I'm saying? Somebody to kind of really you know who would have been great for this team, and you know I can't stand them, but you know who would have been great for this team?
Oh.
Kyle Lowry. And I can't
No, no.
stand Kyle Lowry, but he
But he
would have
would have
been
been
great
perfect.
for this team. He would have just his his championship moxie, his
His aura,
leadership.
his
He's
basketball IQ.
he's not a terrible defender. You know, I have my beefs about
Yeah.
him, but you put him on this team just as a leader, and who knows what could have happened. You know, even I even throw an even crazier name out there, and it's a player that they once had, a Rajon Rondo.
I thought about that when I was watching the highlights after the fact. I said, "Man, imagine if they'd have had a Rajon Rondo, even
Oh
coming off
yeah.
the bench."
Now I would say Kyle Lowry maybe a little more because Kyle Lowry's a better shooter. But I mean,
Okay.
yeah, like you said, even if he was coming off the bench, you know what I'm saying? Just the leadership that he would have on that team, you know. And then another thing I think they need, you know, and it worked for them, you know, they really kind of came down to a true maybe 8-man rotation. But I do still think they need some sort of bench depth. I would like to see them maybe get um
Guard.
maybe another young athletic wing. Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, I'm sure Emma Udoka would like to have just a little more depth, you know what I'm saying, than to just be with those core 7 or 8 guys. And granted, I mean, it worked out for him. He rode them. They got all the way to the finals, but I would like to see them get a little more depth and maybe get another point guard. But with that being said, I mean, next year they're going to be right back in the thick of things in the East. You know what I'm saying?
But then it gets tough because you have to look at you like, damn, this was our chance.
Oh yeah,
This
that
was our
always
chance.
hurts.
Yeah, it hurt, and the Bucks will probably realistically be back.
Yeah.
Like,
And then with Boston, like I don't. Granted, I do think Golden State was the better team, but I don't think they were just head and shoulders better
I,
than Boston. I
I
think
don't,
Boston hurt themselves a lot
and I'm glad
because
you're,
when
and I'm glad you
Boston
said that.
when Boston can when Boston cuts down on the turnovers, when they're able to just really get back and set up defensively in the half court, they're not terrible. Now they one adjustment that they seemed to struggle with was the way they were playing the pick and rolls. I think I kind of mentioned that
Mhm.
on Saturday to the guys. One adjustment that they struggled with defensively was the way they were playing those pick and rolls in the bigs like Horford and Williams and Tice when they did let them get in. Um, they weren't stepping up on those screens. So, I mean, Steph Curry was just having a field day because they were playing, you know, that back coverage or whatnot. But I mean, beyond that, they weren't terrible defensively in the half court, but they were just turning the ball over so much. And Golden State is just such a deadly team. You cannot turn the ball over against that team, or it's
And
lights
then
out.
and then the one thing that killed me was they had, even in Game 6, they've had multiple opportunities in this series to win games, to catch up, and they would
Mhm.
have these long sequences. There would be these sequences where Golden State wasn't scoring, they were stopping Golden State, and Boston couldn't get a bucket to save their fucking life, and it was
Yeah,
driving me nuts. I'm like, this
and
is
a
your
lot of that
opportunity.
I was gonna say a lot of that has to do with
Not having a bucket.
leadership, them having a playmaker, and then those are some of the moments where Jason Tatum just kind of dropped the ball. You know, And once again, I'm not, you know, I know some people kind of put it all on Jason Tatum and just say, you know, he was terrible in this series or whatever. I'm not one of those guys. I don't want to put it all on him. Now, granted, I mean, he dropped the ball. He
He
picked the
did.
worst possible time to have
To
his
play.
worst series. But this doesn't make me feel any differently about the kid. I
No,
still think that
he's
he's one
immense
of
potential.
the young rising stars in this league. I think what he did show is that we might have to hold off just a little longer on calling him a superstar.
I agree.
I think we might have to hold off just a little bit on giving him that superstar title. But he's still one of the rising. What the kid's 20, what, 25, 24?
24. He's not even
So I mean,
25 yet.
he's still young. He still has a ton of basketball to play. And at a young age, he's already had multiple deep playoff runs because he got to, people forget his rookie year, they got to the Eastern Conference Finals, took the
Finals.
Cavs to a game 7.
They went to what? They went to what? 2 to 3 different Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah, they took them to the Eastern Conference Finals then, and then even this year they played two series out to 7 games. You know, so I mean, I'm just saying, you know, let's not get so down on Jason Tatum. Okay, he dropped the ball in this series. Okay, he may not be ready for that superstar title yet, but he's still one of the best young up and coming stars in the NBA.
But I'll say this: after this series, which we see greats have games like this or have series like this, and it usually motivates them and fuels them to get better.
Right.
But I think we'll be able to truly judge who Jason Tatum is and who he's going to become as a player based off of how he responds going into next season. If he comes back and he's on the same shenanigans and he hasn't improved significantly or improved certain areas of his game, especially protecting the ball, then I think we need to be like, okay, like this may just be who he is, just a guy that's talented
Yeah.
and probably never going to reach his ceiling, which is scary because right now, even if he doesn't reach his ceiling, he's a perennial all-star. But maybe he doesn't.
And another guy, I'm sorry, I just happened to check out some of the guys watching on Facebook. And to the guys watching it on Facebook, we definitely appreciate you guys. If you go on YouTube and you know just put in Rooted in Sports and you'll see us. You can watch us live on YouTube. You comment there, we'll be able to see you on the live stream and we can kind of answer and interact live. But I was just watching and shout out to my boy Leonard Dumas. He brought up another point guard that would have been good for them. I didn't even think about Mike Conley.
Yes, he would have. Yes, he
you
would
know,
have.
just another like really experienced, you know, crafty point guard. You know what I'm saying? And he's a solid defender. You know, just another guy that would have been good for them to have. You know what I'm saying?
I think he's a good fit for the city too. Mike
yeah.
Conley, he's a blue collar guy.
I mean, in a similar city in Memphis. You know what I'm saying? Both Memphis, Boston, they like those tough blue collar, hard working guys, and that's what Mike Conley is. Yeah, that was a good one, man. That was another guy right there, man.
Okay, so let me ask you this, you know, and everybody's been bringing this up. I want to know what your opinion is on this. Is it time that we at least entertain Jaylen Brown possibly becoming the number 1 option for this team, or at least challenging for that? Can we at least entertain it now?
I mean, I think I've said this before. I think that what stops him is Jason Tatum. Believe it or not, I know it may not have looked like it in the finals, but Jason Tatum is the more polished offensive player. So I think that's why, you know, if you talk, I believe if you were to talk to, you know, some of the higher ups in that Boston Celtic organization, they would still say, you know, this is Jason Tatum's team, you know. And then even, don't get me wrong, like Jaylen Brown, he had some really good games in the finals. You know what I'm saying? When they were up 2-1, when Boston was up 2-1 in this series, Jaylen Brown was probably the NBA Finals most valuable player. But I think in those games, you really saw one of Jaylen Brown's weaknesses is his ball handling ability. Okay. Like, I think you really saw him there were instances where he was kind of forcing things and trying to create things. And in turn, he was just losing the ball, kind of fumbling the ball all over the place. You know, Jason Tatum had his turnovers, but Jaylen Brown did too. And I think that's the thing that kind of hinders him from maybe being that guy is because even as bad as Jason Tatum played, he's still the more polished offensive guy, you know. But Jaylen Brown is coming too, though. I think that the
Yeah.
same way we view, you know, these guys, the Jason Tatums, the Devin Bookers, the Trey Youngs, Mitchell in Utah, Donovan Mitchell. I think the same way we view those guys, I think we got to start putting Jaylen Brown in that
In that
conversation
category.
as well. Yeah, because I mean, I think he is 25, and he's
Yeah,
another
he's older.
young up and coming star. And I think I wonder how the dynamic is going to be moving forward because sometimes when you got two stars like that, it makes me wonder, you know,
Can they
is
coexist?
yeah, can Jaylen Brown continue to be that quiet, that Klay Thompson, so to speak, you know what I'm saying? That second guy, you know what I'm saying, who's talented himself, who probably in their heart of hearts believes that they can be a franchise player themselves, but you know, continues to be unselfish for the sake of the team. And it makes you wonder moving forward, especially seeing how Jason Tatum performed, it makes you wonder moving forward, you know, how that dynamic will continue to work.
And for me, I think I have a hard time believing that there won't be some kind of turbulence because they've had their ups and downs, Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum over the years.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if it was ever Jaylen Brown having an ego, but I know that they definitely bump heads at times on the court. But after this series, if you're Jaylen Brown, you can't say, and it's not like Boston is Golden State. Golden State has their own culture where they can be selfless, but I don't believe Boston has built that. And if they are, I don't know if they're there yet. But if you can't come out this series as Jaylen Brown and not feel like, hey, look, if I want to pull up from half court, I got the green
Mm-hmm.
light.
I mean, yeah, look,
I got the
if
green
I'm
light.
their coach, I'm okay with it. You know what I'm saying? But I still think obviously their biggest need is that they need some sort of point guard, some sort of or point forward, some sort of leader and facilitator to get them in the right place at the right time, take some of that playmaking pressure off of them so that they can just be aggressive and be scorers and then come back and focus on the defensive end. And that's another thing that I will say about Jaylen Brown too is that I think he's better on the defensive end. Obviously, Jaylen Brown is the more athletic of the two, and I think Jaylen Brown, if he continues to improve, I think you can see Jaylen Brown putting himself in that conversation as a best two-way player in the league.
Okay, so let me ask you this. This is a small segue, but it all ties in. Do you think that there are some players that would be held in higher regard or would get a lot more publicity or would probably get a lot more opportunity? Do you think that there are guys that could be number one options or high end number two, but they're just not given that, they're not put in that role? Because I saw an interview with Iman Shumpert, and he kind of talked about that. And he said that if
Mm-hmm.
he wanted to, he could have 30 points a game, but they never gave him that type of green light. He got pigeonholed into a role. So my thing is, do you think that there are some guys, and maybe this can tie a little bit into Jaylen Brown, he doesn't fully have, okay, this is Jason Tatum's team. Even though he has a
Mm-hmm.
big role, it may be that the team is like, okay, hey, look, Jaylen, we know you're good, but this is who you are. You're the number two option and two-way player. What do you think?
Well, okay, so let me say this about Amon Shumpert. I think that a lot of times because guys get to the league and because, obviously if you get to the league, you've had some sort of success on multiple levels,
Mhm,
whether it be at the high school level or for a lot of guys at the college level,
mhm.
you've had some sort of success. Most of the guys, when they get to the league, they've been the man everywhere they've been.
Right. Even the bench players.
So even the bench guys, you know what I'm saying? Even the last guy on the bench for the Orlando Magic can go to any rec center or YMCA anywhere we know in America and give all of us buckets. That's just what it is. You know what I'm saying? The NBA has 400 to 500 of the best players in the
The
world.
world.
Okay. because there's only been about 5,000 or 6,000 people in history to play in the NBA. So
damn, is the number that
we're
small?
talking elite company. Okay, so with that being said, I mean, as far as Amon Shumpert goes, if he could have averaged 20, 30 a game, he would have. But that just wasn't his game. It wasn't that he didn't get the opportunity. That wasn't his game. You know what I'm saying? He struggled creating his own shot. You know, he was a defender who worked to develop a reliable jump shot that made him at his best in his prime a really solid 3-and-D guy. And he was a really large, huge piece on a championship winning team. With that being said, there are some guys, some number 2 options who could probably be, you know, franchise guys, or at least go somewhere else and average 25, 27, close to 30 points. You know, Jaylen Brown could be one of those guys. Jaylen Brown could go somewhere else and still average, you know, 26, 27 a game.
As the main guy.
Yeah, as the main guy. Now, whether he can actually lead a team to the playoffs or even, you know, to a deep playoff run, I mean, that still remains to be seen. A lot of times people, I know when he was healthy, a lot of times people would make that argument for Klay Thompson. And I don't know, I guess I've kind of pushed back on that because I see Klay Thompson as, I've always seen Klay Thompson as a modern day Reggie Miller.
Reggie Miller, thank you. But if Reggie Miller can, if Reggie Miller can do it, he can do it. I'm glad you said that. You took the words out of my mouth.
But let me say this too, you know, for the younger viewers or whatnot that don't know, who didn't see Reggie Miller during those Indiana Pacer days, don't get me wrong, you know, he was their guy. He was their franchise guy.
He came off screens.
You rarely seen him getting the ball, getting isolated on a wing, going one-on-one, breaking somebody down and getting his shot off. He got a lot of his shots constantly moving and going off of screens and back cutting, getting layups and stuff like that. And then they also had a really solid big man. They called him the Duncan Dutchman, and Rick Smits. And Rick Smits was getting 17 to 18 a game for him on the block. You know what I'm saying? He was a really, really talented big man, you know. Then he had one of the best point guards in league history. Now, he's not a top 10 point guard, but one of the better point guards in league history. He's a top 10 assist guy, and a guy we all know. We heard him calling Game 6 and when Mark Jackson. Mark Jackson was his point guard for quite a long time, setting him up and getting him easy shots, getting him in the best position for him to score. So bringing that back, I think that for Klay Thompson to be successful as a number 1 option, I think he would need the perfect situation, kind of like that.
So they would have
Klay Thompson has never been that guy to me that you could just give him the ball on one corner of the floor and isolate it for him and let him go to work.
No.
I think Jaylen Brown has that potential. I think Chris Middleton has that potential.
Okay.
I'm going through my head here about, you know, some guys that were playing second fiddle. I mean, obviously with the Clippers, you know, Paul George and Kawhi Leonard have both shown they can be, you know, franchise guys. I don't know. I'm trying to real quickly go through my head here of some guys who could possibly do really well on their own. But yeah, Jaylen Brown and Chris Middleton, those are 2 guys that come to mind as far as they're probably the second options on their team, but could definitely go elsewhere and be, you know, number 1 options.
Oh, interesting. I just had to ask that question because it always made me wonder. So, I mean, I guess we're going to see what happens moving forward. I think
next year is going to be interesting because
it's going to be fun.
And it's crazy I mentioned them, but, you know, as far as Golden State goes in the West, trying to get back out the West, I mean, it's going to be a gauntlet again. I think the Clippers, you know, at full strength, 100% healthy, I think they're going to be a tough out for anybody. You know what I'm saying? I think they're going to be right back at the top of the West.
And they're trying to recruit Carmelo. Kawhi is trying to bring Carmelo over there.
And you know, that'll be a solid pickup. No pressure on him. He can just come off the bench and you know, he can still, he's shown the ability to still get hot, you know, 6-7 times out of the year. He'll still get hot and get you, 22, 23, 25, and possibly win you a game. You know what I'm saying? He's still showing that ability off the bench. So even without him, though, the Clippers, when they're healthy, they're a loaded team, top to bottom. So, I mean, you got to think next year, they're going to contest, with Golden State. You got to think Phoenix is going to be right back.
I think Denver is gonna come.
If
come with
I
they can get
love
healthy.
Denver.
If they get healthy,
Denver, man. But
if Denver can get healthy,
I'll say this though. I mean, Denver's coming to that crossroad though. Next year will be a big season for them because if they get into this season and they start to have the same injury problems with Jamal Murray and with Kevin Porter Jr. Michael Porter Jr. Excuse me.
Yeah.
You might want to. They might have to consider blowing that thing up, But I think Phoenix will be right back there. I think Dallas will be right back there. I don't think Mark Cuban's going to sit pat this offseason. I think he's going to make some moves. And then also next year, they'll be getting Tim Hardaway Jr. back, who was another scorer that Dallas definitely could have used, in that series against Golden State. Memphis, obviously, Memphis is going to be back there. They've been talking crazy already, so.
What Ja say?
Man, look, we run up the chimney, you know what I'm saying? So, I mean, the West is going to be loaded. Obviously, the East, like you said, Milwaukee will be back. Miami's going to be back.
If Miami, look, I've been saying this. If Miami can get a fucking score, if they can get somebody that can really get a bucket outside of Tyler Hero and then Jimmy Butler when he's overachieving, there'd be a dangerous.
Quiet as it's kept. Tyler Hero's been kind of rumbling about wanting to be a starter next year. He feels like he's deserving of being a starter, and he's kind of making some noise. I don't know if they'll, really figure some things out and oblige, or if he may. Don't be surprised if you look up and you hear about him asking for a trade, because quiet as it's kept, he's been making some rumblings about wanting to be a starter, moving forward. But
and we all know.
And you know what? I'll say this though. He's a kid. Obviously his rookie year he came out, played really well, helped him, make that run to the finals the bubble year. His second year,
sophomore slump.
A little bit of a sophomore slump. Came back last year, 6th man of the year, averaged about 21 a game. He's another guy who could possibly go elsewhere and, maybe get 25, 26 a game. Now, do I at this point in his career, do I think he's a franchise player? No. But do I think he can go somewhere
he's a strong
and fill it up? Yeah. Do I think he can go somewhere and fill it up? Yeah, possibly. He can go somewhere and put some points on the board. Yeah.
And you know what, that could be a very real possibility. It's funny, I haven't even got a chance to. I haven't even thought about Tyler Hero possibly leaving Miami, but if he does want to be a starter, I mean, we all know I have a very hard time believing that Spo is gonna, if he's gonna give up defense just for a little bit more offense. I think he wants somebody. If he's gonna bring somebody in, he wants to bring somebody that could be capable on both sides of the floor.
True. So Leonard, I'm gonna answer your question. I see you asked a really good question. I'm gonna answer your question, and then we can move on. He was saying, should the Celtics go after DeAndre Ayton? That's that's really interesting. I'm not gonna say no, because I mean he's a talented big. He'll slip right in. That would probably make Al Horford expendable. They both have their pros and their cons. I think Al Horford is a better shooter and he has more range. But at the same token, I think that DeAndre Ayton is more of a consistent offensive factor at this stage in his career, and DeAndre Ayton is still getting better. I wouldn't say no. I just think that they'd be better off going after some sort of point guard, or point forward, some sort of playmaker or facilitator, because I just think that's what they need right now. But I mean, if it was a way they can get DeAndre Ayton, by all means, I mean, have at it. I'm sure they'll take him.
Hey, I'm gonna be honest. I'm not even gonna hold you. I think DeAndre Ayton needs to stay where he is. He needs to go to a special situation, because you heard me talk about this on Ruben Sports Community. It's not his talent. It's not even his skill set because I think he has a phenomenal skill set for a young big man. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but his mindset, he's very mentally fragile. And I
He
think he's
is.
gonna need to go to a situation, which I mean, okay, let's be honest. Ime Udoka's a good coach, but he's gonna have to go to a situation where they really have a strong foundation and a coach that's
Mm-hmm.
gonna be patient with him. And I mean, let's be honest, Boston ain't Phoenix.
Yeah, true that.
Bo-
And I think, it's already been rumblings that he doesn't necessarily, or he hadn't necessarily been getting along with Monty Williams. They've had kind of
really?
they've had kind of a love or hate relationship.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, I mean, I think that's part of the and if I'm not mistaken, in that Dallas series, I think he had a issue with Monty Williams because he kind of benched him, down
In
the
a crucial
stretch
moment.
in some crucial moments.
Hey,
So they weren't necessarily seeing eye to eye about that, and it seems as if DeAndre Ayton is gonna be up out of there. Now where he'll go, I would love this. Look, I love to see him calling my Bulls. Although
Vucevic.
word is, we're going after Rudy Gobert. I mean,
But I keep hearing a lot of different things for Rudy Gobert. I've heard Dallas for Rudy
I hear
Gobert.
Dallas. Yeah, I've
Mhm.
heard Dallas. I've heard really the two teams I've heard is Dallas and Chicago. I think both teams could use them. As far as my Bulls go, I mean, I don't know. That's another topic for another day, man.
We'll go on and
I
on.
would assume they would get off Vucevic in order to bring Gobert in.
You think they're that willing? They're that ready to move on from Vucevic? I mean, I know he didn't have
Vu-
his best year, but
Vucevic doesn't play well. He can't seem to find his role or his place with Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan. And
you
it
don't
seems
think.
Zach LaVine's a free agent, and it seems as if the Bulls are going to offer him the max. So they offer him the max, they bring him back. Vucevic just kind of struggles offensively to figure out where he fits in with them. And
Now,
so I
now,
think
now,
the
now,
Bulls think that they can, they go and get Rudy Gobert, maybe they flip Vucevic, and then they can keep Patrick Williams, who'll be coming back from injury, and they'll play that kind of that small ball, that small four with Patrick Williams at the four, and then Rudy Gobert just be the rim protector.
okay, that's possible. But you don't think that maybe they would attempt to keep Vucevic. Obviously Lonzo Ball be back into the fold, and he's their best playmaker.
I mean that's a
Because
possibility. I do
I,
think
I
he
don't.
could work
Yeah,
well with Lonzo, but obviously Lonzo was just so hurt he didn't
yeah.
necessarily get an extended period of time to
That's
play
what I'm saying.
with Lonzo. So
Yeah,
that's a
yeah.
possibility.
Yeah. So the East is getting better.
Yeah.
So just kind of going back to the original topic before we move on, is the Celtics gonna have a tough road back. Now granted they have a better understanding, and they know what it's like to taste what it's like to be in the finals. But I mean, shit, the East has become a gauntlet. The Bucks
It
are
is.
a real contender. Miami, I love Miami. I am so excited to see what they do and what they add because they're right there. They're kind of like Memphis. They're like the Memphis
Mm.
Grizzlies in the early 2010s. When they had
I would love to see. I would actually love to see Miami get another big that they can put into their rotation because right now it seems like Bam Adebayo is their only true
real
big,
big,
and
yeah.
he's
It's
and he's
undersized.
yeah he's a little
He's 6'9".
undersized,
Yeah.
but he's playing bigger than he really is. I would love to see them get another big who they can actively have in their rotation, but I mean, we'll see what happens, man. I do think, and we're about to get into it next on some of these picks, but I do think I really can't wait till Thursday because I really do think it's going to be some movement on Thursday. I think you're going to see. I don't know if you'll see just a huge splash superstar get moved, but I think
Mhm.
you're going to see a lot of really good role players get moved and put into situations where they can really be able to help some teams. And I think you're going to see some of these picks get tossed around too. So
Most definitely. Most definitely. So NBA Finals is done.
in the books,
Now it's
congratulations once again to the 2022 NBA champion Golden State Warriors.
glad I didn't put no money up.
Man.
I'd have been asked out. I had some people try to get me, but yeah. So I guess I just followed my better judgment.
I was just gonna say, thankfully you followed your better judgment.
Yeah. Or some some matchups, and it's in all sports. Sometimes it's just too evenly matched for you to bet on. You're like, oh, I don't know.
True.
Yeah.
True that.
So that's that. But now we got the NBA draft Thursday, right? It's coming up. Obviously, we're gonna be covering it live. But we gotta wrap up rooted in basketball. Hit this 11 through 15. Bo, good evening, fellas. Glad to
Bo,
have
what's
you.
happening, man? Always a pleasure.
Yeah. So yeah, we gotta wrap up rooted in basketball because we gotta get to this thing, man. We got some interesting
yes, sir.
prospects.
The draft is this Thursday. So yeah, we're gonna go ahead and finish out the lottery. We're gonna actually do 11 through 15. So we're gonna actually give you a couple extra picks outside of the lottery. So we're gonna do 11 through 15 today, man. And I think it's gonna be really interesting, man. I'm really interested to see how my picks, my 15 picks that I did, I'm really interested to see how that's going to match up to the way it goes down on Thursday. Because like I said, I fully expect some picks to be moved and some trades to be made. Like I said, nobody really major. I don't see a real blockbuster trade happening, but I do see a lot of these teams either trying to move up to get guys or moving back to get guys. And I do see a lot of veterans and really solid role players possibly getting moved around and getting in better positions where they can, be better players and help some of these teams who are right on the brink.
Oh yeah, no, 100%, most definitely. And I like this draft because I think you're seeing a lot of guys that are gonna go between 10 and 20 that, in my opinion, I think this draft has a lot of guys that in other drafts they would probably be lottery picks.
I can agree with that. I can agree
Yeah.
with that. Yeah, I can agree with that. But and I've said this before, the NBA now, they're just drafting so much off of potential and upside. And those are the two words that you're gonna hear from me, that you probably heard from me, even doing this whole rooted in basketball segment. And you're gonna hear those two words a million times Thursday night at the draft.
Potential and upside.
Yeah. Ceiling and floor, there's no outside of the top 3 guys, maybe the top 4 guys, there's no real for sure. And there's even questions with those top 3 or 4 guys as to, if they're bona fide franchise guys. And I'm talking, Jabari Smith, Chet Holmgren, Paolo Banchero, and then maybe you can throw in Jaden Ivey in that mix.
Yeah. The most athletic guard in this draft. Any teams that might trade up?
Yeah. Who might trade up? I
could see some. I could see some teams trading back because I know you have OKC has that second pick.
Yeah. OKC has the second pick and the 12th pick in the lottery.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll give you one actually. I made a pick for them earlier. So the Charlotte Hornets, they have the 13th pick and the 15th pick, which we'll get to in a minute. But Charlotte really, really, really needs a big man. They really need a center. I'm sure they want to get off the Plumlee brother. They really could use a big. And the two best bigs that are, out there as far as true centers are Mark Williams from Duke and then Jalen Duren from Memphis. Now, in my draft, I had both of them already off the board. I think I had Mark Williams going to the Spurs, and then I had Jalen Duren going to the Wizards. However, so if that's the case, if they get word of both of those guys possibly going ahead of their pick at 13,
you can see.
Don't be surprised if you see Charlotte try to move up just so they can get one of those bigs. Washington is another team though, but I think Washington may package their pick with a player and try to move back to get some sort of veteran that can help right now. The same with Portland. I said the same thing about Portland. And the reason I say that is because Portland and Washington both got two franchise players who are trying their hardest to be loyal to these teams, and they're saying all the right things. However, those guys they want some sort of veteran help, some sort of veteran presence that can come in and help their teams right away. And so those are two teams that I think you could see possibly moving back in the draft just so they can get a veteran player. Now, who might trade up in those positions? Guess we have to see Thursday.
So like moving on to 11. I'm not gonna lie, I had a hard time really tabbing somebody to the Knicks at 11.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because it's because they need a center. You know, and obviously we already had, Mark Williams. You know, I know I had Mark Williams already going,
and
he's out of there. So, but they really need a center.
Okay.
But they have power forwards. Obviously, Julius Randle, Obi Toppin. What player do you think is a good fit for them? Like, who did you choose, or do you think that they should maybe look at possibly trading a pick and getting a player?
So, if there is a big there for them, that's around this range on their draft board, I wouldn't be surprised if they went and got him. Especially because if I'm not mistaken, Mitchell Robinson, who they have at center now, who's more of a rim runner, rim protector.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm not mistaken, I believe he's a free agent. Might be a restricted free agent, but I believe he's a free agent.
Mm-hmm.
So they may look to get a center. However, I just think that, like I said in my draft, the two centers that I have that are lottery worthy, I already had them gone. Yeah.
Right.
So for me, I had them taking AJ Griffin out of Duke. He's a 6'6". He can be, he can play the 2 or the 3. I see him more possibly even the 4 because he has a really nice build to him. Maybe in smaller lineups you can put him at the 4. I see him more as a small forward. But he's a really solid shooter, especially catching and shooting. He has shown some ability to be able to put the ball on the floor. He has a lot of defensive potential. He's 6'6", he's 220. He has a really, really nice build, really broad shoulders, but then he still has a 7-foot wingspan. So, he's not freakishly athletic, but he has shown some sort of defensive potential. Now, one of the problems with him is that injuries have kind of been a problem for him. So he was kind of eased into Duke's rotation over the past season, he was a freshman this past year, and that kind of led to some of the smaller statistical showings because he only averaged about 10 points a game. But if I'm not mistaken, he was a kid. First of all, his dad played in the NBA, Adrian Griffin. His dad is actually an assistant coach, I believe, with Toronto. So he has some NBA ties. If I'm not mistaken, he committed to Duke really early in high school, committed to Duke after like his sophomore season. He dislocated his kneecap or something like that his junior year, missed his whole junior year. And then he broke his ankle or something like that his senior year, missed the back end of his senior year, and missed the beginning of Duke's season, just kind of still in recovery from that. And so that's why you kind of seen Duke, as the season go on, really kind of increase his minutes, and he kind of progressed, into one of their rotational guys. But yeah, I mean, he has some pretty decent upside. He can be effective without the ball in his hands, and he has a really kind of mature game. One of the knocks on him is that he consistently either he's going to finish with power or he's just not going to finish at all. He doesn't have, when he gets to the bucket, he doesn't have a ton of finesse to his game. So that's really one of the knocks on him. But like I said, he's a really solid shooter, especially catching and shooting. My player comparison for him: And maybe some of you guys, know this guy for some of my real NBA basketball heads. I compared him to Sadiq Bey, who's kind of a 3-and-D guy for the Detroit Pistons. However, if you guys remember, Sadiq Bey did have a 51 point game this past season. So he's shown some ability to score. He can definitely shoot the ball. And yeah, that was my player comparison for him though. But yeah, I got the Knicks. If there's no big there for him, I got them going with AJ Griffin.
Okay, so I'll tell you this. This was a player that I was hesitant to pick because they do have so many bodies in that power forward room.
Mm-hmm.
But Jeremy Sochin, if I'm saying his name
Oh,
right,
from Baylor.
From
Mm-hmm.
Baylor. And the thing is he's a 6'9" guy, but what I like about him is he's a very good defender.
Mm-hmm.
He's 6'9", he has a 7-foot wingspan, and he's an elite defender that can guard 1 through 5. He's a guy that I think they could bring in. And I mean, let's be honest, it's not like I like Obi Toppin, but it's not like Obi Toppin is just keeping people. He's not just keeping people out of the game. But maybe if they want to play a little bit smaller, they could possibly stick a Jeremy Sochin or rotate him in, let him play a little center, and still, obviously have Julius Randle in at the 4 and give some looks like
And
that.
we know Tom Thibodeau is a defensive guy, and he
Right.
loves defensive guys who are going to give that effort. You know what I'm saying? He take a defensive guy all day long, twice on Sunday. So that's not a bad pick there at all.
And then I look at, as much as I was hesitant, you look at today's modern NBA, and we're really moving towards the 6'8", 6'9" center.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I mean, you look at, and I mean, who's to say that Jeremy Sochin can't be? I'm sorry, I'm chopping your name up if I am. Who's to say he can't be another Robert Williams, who's matured into a fine player, even if he doesn't get any better right now. I think he's really fine defensive
Oh yeah,
player.
he's found his niche.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. So, I mean, that was my pick for New York. Like I said, obviously there's a myriad of different ways that you can go, but I think we both agree that they need a big man primarily.
No. That's not a bad pick. Actually, moving on, we got OKC at 12. Now OKC, this will, if they keep this pick, this would be their second pick in the lottery because they did have the number 2 pick. And now they have the number 12 pick. And crazy enough, you just mentioned them. I had Jeremy Sochan going 12 to OKC. Now, let me say this.
Okay.
There's another guy that I said, Benedict Mathurin earlier. I think I actually had 2 guys possibly going to Portland. So if they're at the shooting guard position, and at the wing position in general, there's quite a few guys that could go in this lottery, in those lottery picks or whatnot. If somehow Benedict Mathurin is to fall, OKC at 12 and the Charlotte Hornets, who I'll get to next at 13, both of those teams will probably try to pounce. If Benedict Mathurin falls past, 8 or 9, you're going to see both of those teams probably try to pounce and get them. You know what I'm saying? Especially OKC, because they could use a wing shooter. But, we're talking hypothetically here. And with that being said, I had Jeremy Sochan going to OKC. Like I mentioned earlier, you know what I'm saying? He's 6'9", 230, kid out of Baylor. And I just got in my notes. I literally wrote it 3 times. Defense, defense, defense. Now, I know a lot of times we always throw this term out saying that, this guy can guard 1 through 5. Jeremy Sochan can really guard 1 through 5.
Yeah, he can.
Like his motor, he has a phenomenal motor defensively. You know what I'm saying? He's gonna give you his all-out effort at all times. He moves his feet well. He moves his feet well. He's the perfect defender for the pick and roll. And that's what you're seeing all of these teams running right now. He's the perfect defender for that because you can switch and have him out there on the wing without any problem. Or you can have him stay home and you can have him, guarding the big without any problem because he has nice size and nice length. Um, Offensively, you're not gonna get a ton from him. Now he does have a solid handle. He can, get the ball off the backboard and initiate the break. He is a pretty efficient passer. But other than that, his offense leaves a lot to be desired. So there's definitely some work to do there. And then, like I said, because he is such an active defender, sometimes he does get in a little foul trouble because he gets a little too over aggressive because he just has such a high motor defensively. But I think in picking Jeremy Sochan, you're really picking him for defense. My player comparison, he's slightly bigger than this guy, but I kind of got him in the same room, and we just seen him in the finals. I kind of compared him to Gary Payton II. Gary Payton is a guy for Golden State who they don't necessarily, care. They don't look to him offensively, but he's a guy that they really use on the defensive end, a guy that they can bring in and he's able to just kind of switch everything and pick up and guard multiple positions. And that's something that I can see for Jeremy Sochan. He may, in the future have a little more offensive upside than Gary Payton does just because he's already a better ball handler than Gary Payton the second is. And he
He's
still
athletic.
has he's more at
Well, he's
they're
athletic.
about equal athletically, but
Yeah.
Sochan is just a taller, bigger guy, But I think they're about equal athletically. But Sochan already has a better handle to him, and he's already a slightly better playmaker, So but yeah, that was my player comparison. And yeah, I got him right now. I got him at 12. Going to OKC.
Obviously, that's a good pick because they definitely need defense up there in OKC, and they need it obviously from a big man. But I looked at a player that I think could be a good fit for them in multiple positions. Terry Eason from LSU.
Okay,
Right,
another defensive guy.
a defensive guy, but he's 6'7", but he has a 7'2" wingspan.
Yeah.
Right, 6'7", 7'2" wingspan. Like another guy that they say can guard 1 through 5. And you really see him do a lot of different. You see the paint, he can get points in the paint. He's a high motor, high effort guy. So I mean, once again, it would be out of the realm of possibility to see him getting reps wing, especially from a defensive standpoint. So OKC has needs at shooting guard, small forward, power forward, and center. And why not bring in a guy that can kind of be a little bit of a chess piece? Granted, he'd probably come off the bench for them, but I think he could come in and give them some type of ammo, give them some give them something to work with, and at least they need. I think OKC needs as much as they can get right now.
They do, and they do as a team. OKC do have a few guys that they are excited about. Obviously, they love Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He is their guy, their franchise guy right now. The kid who they took last year, Josh Giddey, I know they love him, and I know they're interested in the improvement that he's gonna make. The kid Lou Dort, who they got out of I want to say Arizona State. Kid Lou Dort, they got out of Arizona State a couple years back. He's showing constant improvement. He's developed a really reliable 3-point shot now, so he's turned into a really solid possible 3-and-D guy for him. So I mean, they got some pieces that I know that they kind of like. However, I do agree with you. I think that they just need kind of an influx of talent and whomever they can get to help them in any way, shape, or form possible. I think they'll take them. Like I said, don't be surprised if Benedict Mathurin or one of those wings are still there. That from toward the top of the draft, one of those guys are still there. Don't be surprised if OKC is trying to jump up to get them. And I think both of the guys we have though, because in my mock draft, I had them taking Chet Holmgren with the second pick.
Right.
So both of the guys that we have though, Sochan for me, and then my boy out of LSU, his name's leaving me right now. But both of these guys are
Terry Eason.
Yeah. Both of those guys are defensive guys. Both of those guys can be, kind of those stretch forwards. And I think that they can fit pretty solidly with a Chet Holmgren who is who can be a rim protector. So I think defensively, both of those guys can fit really solid with him. and they won't necessarily clog the lane for him either, you know. And then especially with Sochan, because Sochan does have some passing ability.
Yeah, he
So
does.
yeah, I think both of those guys could really fit well with him, man. Good pick there, man. I don't think I had him. I'll say this.
Not as high.
Yeah, I was gonna say I would be surprised if he goes in a lottery. But I do think that he'll definitely go in the first round though. So
Yeah, he will.
good pick right there. Good pick, man. All right, so moving on, we got Charlotte here with the number 13 pick.
First of all, but before you jump into Charlotte, let's talk about the state of this franchise. Where are they at?
Well, as phenomenal a player as Michael Jordan was, and I feel like he's the GOAT. He may be one of your worst GM owners, so to speak. I think for him, okay, he may have hit a home run with LaMelo Ball.
Right.
I think that LaMelo, the sky's the limit for him. I do personally. I want to see him, and he's still young. We have to remember that he is still young, but I want to see him maybe mature just a little bit more. You know what I'm saying? I want to see him really like get on his grind and really, really show some emotion and care about the state of the organization, because now we're talking about a team who's lost in the play-in 2 years in a row, lost the first game of the play-in 2 years in a row, and really got smoked in both games,
So you're saying you feel like he needs to take on more of a prominent leadership role for
he
that team,
does. He
and
does.
not
I think next year is the time for them to see him really take on a leadership role and take ownership, and accountability for his play and him holding other guys to a standard. Charlotte does have some young talent. They were a team last year who could get hot, who could score. They couldn't really necessarily defend, but they still have they still got Terry Rozier, Miles Bridges, who I think had a really good argument for most improved player this year. They still got PJ Washington, I believe. Who they got some guys who can put some points up on the board. But like I said earlier, Charlotte is one of those teams who, if they can move up and get one of those bigs, I think they would. If they could get a Mark Williams or a Jalen Duran, who I think would fit in wonderfully with that young core. I think if either of those guys on the board, you're going to see them scrambling to try to get up to get one of those guys. But unfortunately, on my board, they're both gone. So hypothetically, I got them taking a guy, and you mentioned him last week. You had him as one of your picks last week. Kid from France, Ousmane Dieng.
Yes, that'd be good. That'd be a good fit for him.
You mentioned him last year. So he's originally from France, but he's been playing in the NBL in New Zealand. He's still young. I think he's about to turn 19. But he has some tools. He's 6'10". He's a 185. He can play the 3 or the 4, but he's really a wing. He's really a true kind of point forward. You know what I'm saying? He's a real playmaker. That's the first thing I wrote down about him. He's a really solid playmaker. He has a really good handle. His shooting, he showed the ability last year to improve his shooting. They were saying that over the final 3 months of their NBL season, he was shooting atrocious. He was at about 23% for the season, but over the final 3 months, he improved his 3-point shooting all the way up to 35% from the field, which isn't, mind blowing, but considering where he was, now he's showing that ability that he can improve. He has the type of game, and this is also something that they mentioned. He has the type of game where if you look at him, you'll say, you know what, he was probably a point guard or something growing up, and he hit a growth spurt.
You're right.
And that's one of the things that a lot of the overseas scouts and a lot of the guys on the team were saying, is that he was still growing, and they're not even sure if he's done growing, So this is a guy who's still kind of filling out, his body and his frame. So with that being said, one of his weaknesses is that he does need to get stronger, because he can be kind of pushed around on both ends. So he can kind of be knocked around offensively and on the defense. His defense right now is pretty much non-existent. You know what I'm saying? Because he is a little frail, he struggles finishing at the rim. But um, this kid has a really, really solid set of skills. Like I said, he has a 6'10 long, has a really, really good handle. He's already a really good passer, good playmaker. Shooting is improving. He's even he even as at toward the end of the season, he even started to show that he can kind of create even better on his own. He was making step backs and things of that nature. So yeah, I think this kid here, man, he has a really high upside. So check these names out. So as a ceiling, if he reaches his full potential, I see Michael Porter Jr., maybe even Brandon Ingram. I think he has that type of ceiling and that type of potential if he can bring it all together. As a floor, I'm gonna mention a name to you. I don't know if you remember him, but kind of in the same mold. He was also a guy from France as well. I don't know if you remember Boris Diaw.
I do remember Boris Diaw.
Boris Diaw, he played some really good seasons with the Phoenix Suns, and then he was on another championship team with the San
Spurs.
Antonio Spurs.
Spurs, yeah.
And he was another guy at 6'9", 6'10" range. Was never the best shooter. He ended up developing a mid-range shot later in his career. Was never the best shooter, but he was a really good playmaker and facilitator and passer. And those are things that Ousmane Dieng can do right now. And I think as a floor, you could see him maybe be a Boris Diaw. As a
And I
ceiling, he could be, Ingram, maybe
and
Michael
I
Porter Jr.
and I like that comparison because they talk about Boris Diaw and said he used to be a guard.
Yeah.
They used to
Yep.
be a guard, and he kind of he grew into that. No, so that's a good comparison.
And the fit that I'm going back to the Phoenix days, the way he fitted with that team because they had such a great rim runner and a great finisher and Amari Stoudemire, and then he had those shooters around him with Barbosa and Raja Bell. They had Tim Thomas for you. They had Quentin Richardson at one time. Obviously, Steve Nash was the ultimate facilitator for that team, but obviously he's one of the best shooters ever. So he was a guy, although he couldn't shoot, he was a facilitator and a playmaker, and he could really do some things for them. He would often have, some of those Draymond Green games, 12 points, 8 or 6, 7 rebounds, you know what I'm saying? And I think as a floor, I think Ousmane Dieng can be that type of player. Now he is a project. Like I think if he does fall to the Hornets, I wouldn't be surprised if they stash him over in France or maybe put him on their NBD on their G League team and just let him really
Develop a little
develop
bit.
and hit the weights and get used to the physicality. But yeah, man, this kid got a lot of potential.
Well, first of all, once you get out of the top 10, I mean, first of all, once you get out of the top 10, everybody's a project.
Yeah,
pretty much.
Even, but you know what? I think there's a few projects in the
top 10. No,
but some of those guys are just they're gonna be on an NBA roster. They're gonna get the trial and error in the NBA. And some of these other teams, they're afforded the opportunity to send guys to the G League or let them stay overseas and then bring them over when they're ready.
So, okay, obviously you just talked about Charlotte and where you feel like they are as a franchise, and they need obviously they've lost two playing tournaments, 2 playing games 2 years in a row, and they need to grow up. They need more maturity. They definitely need to add some more big men, and they're probably not going to get they're not going to get Benedict Mathurin. They're not going to get Mark Williams. Those guys are going to be gone. But I looked at a guy that is undersized, but he really plays like a true big man. And I think size is probably the only thing he has against him. EJ Liddell from Ohio
State. Okay.
And he's a guy that I think that they'll have to explore taking him. He's an older prospect. I want to say he's about 22, 23 because he went back.
Yeah,
he
stayed. I think he's a senior.
Yeah, he's a senior. Yeah, a super senior. Now I'm not gonna do him like that. But you ever see Higher Learning when she saw Ice Cube? She said, "I heard you a super duper senior."
Super senior.
Yeah, but no, I think that they're gonna have to explore that. He's older. He's more mature. He has a very high basketball IQ.
He does.
And they say,
but that comes from staying in school, you know,
Yeah.
and his game improved and improved every year.
Vastly. And I think this last year, going back to Ohio State, because I think he tried to come out before, if I'm not mistaken. He
He
tried to
tested
come
the
out a little
waters,
bit.
yeah.
He tested the
He
waters,
tested the waters.
and he came back. But he got a lot better as a defender, which is
He
something that
did.
they definitely need. So, I think
Plays a
right
lot tougher.
yeah, plays a lot tougher. And I think that's what they need. Charlotte, they need maturity. They need guys to grow the hell up and stop just having fun. Like it's because they got a pretty young roster.
They do. They do.
Yeah.
And that's not a bad pick, you know, because like you said, I mean, the NBA is really going in that direction of having
Although
these smaller 4s and 5s, especially to close out games, and they want guys that can be flexible and
guard
they
multiple
can defense
positions.
guard multiple positions. And so I mean, I could see a lineup. You put them out there with PJ Washington and Miles Bridges and LaMelo and Terry Rozier. I could see that lineup, you know. So that's not a bad pick at all. And like you said, he's a very mature guy.
Yeah.
A
He's not a
4-year
kid.
guy. Yeah,
Yeah.
4-year guy out of Ohio State. And he really had a really, really great career there.
Yeah.
So, and it's really good to see guys who actually stay in school for 4 years and develop their game. 10, 15 years ago, he might have been a lottery pick. 20 years ago, he might have been a lottery pick, but now, the way of the world and, the way the NBA is going, they want young and athletic and, sometimes you get punished for staying in school, but that's a really good pick right there. All right. So
we got good old Cleveland.
At 14, we got Cleveland. I think they were one of the surprise teams of the NBA this year. They're another kind of young team. They still got Kevin Love, kind of a holdover from the championship squad, but beyond that, but beyond that, say it again.
I was about to say, I think he'll be there for the foreseeable future, just as that veteran presence.
Oh yeah, and I mean he's still a capable shooter and rebounder if they can keep him healthy. Now, obviously, those days of 26-12, 27-13, those days are long gone. But I mean, they can still have him come off the bench, and he can still, get you, 12 to 14 points, knock a couple threes down off the bench, if he can stay healthy. But like I said, another team with a really nice young core. Darius Garland was another guy who really took that next step last year. He could have been a viable option for most improved player. I think they're looking forward to Colin Sexton getting back next year, coming back from the torn ACL. They got your boy Evan Mobley from USC.
Although I think they're gonna. I could see them getting rid of Colin Sexton.
Colin Sexton, you know what?
I could see them packaging him because Darius Garland kind of made him expendable because he's a true playmaker.
He is. I see that too. And Colin Sexton, he's more of a scorer, and it'll be interesting to see how he comes back from this injury. And they're both two smaller guards. Because I think Garland's only about 6'2" maybe, and I think
Colin Sexton's like 6'2".
Colin Sexton's about the same size. So you're talking about two smaller guards. Neither one of them are known for their defense. And then, Colin Sexton, even healthy, and I think he's a talented kid, but even healthy, I think he was kind of a one-trick pony. So that's a good point there. I wouldn't be surprised if they possibly try to move him or see if they can get somebody for him. But they do got some nice young talent there. They still got the kid, Isaac Okoro. They got some nice young guys there. So at 14, he might be a little high on my board than he is on some other boards, but I got Okai Agbaji out of Kansas.
We got the same player.
Yes, sir. I got him out of Kansas.
It's a good fit.
I think so, man. And once again, another senior, another guy, 22 years old. Okay, another guy who came back to school last year. And let me say this though, just on a personal note. He was one of my favorite players to watch last year in college basketball. So for guys that don't know him, we're talking Okai Agbaji. We're talking about the best player on a national championship winning team. a senior, a guy that stayed in school. Okay, very mature guy. He's a plug and play guy. He can come in right away
Six
and make a
man,
difference on
be your
someone's team
yeah.
right away. You know what I'm saying? Um, he's kind of in that 3-and-D mode right now. He's a really solid shooter. He's a big shot taker and maker. I couldn't even tell you how many times I watched Kansas last year, and they're in these close, tight games, especially some of these Big 12 games. I remember one game specifically against Texas Tech, and it was coming down to the wire. And Agbaji is one of those guys who's gonna go to the ball, who wants the ball in his hands, who
And that's
wants those
big.
shots
That's
in those moments, and that also shows the maturity. You know what I'm saying? He was a senior guy. It was his team. He's the type of guy that wants those shots in those moments. Um, he still needs some help kind of creating off the dribble, and then he doesn't necessarily finish great at the rim. Last year, a lot of his points came off of a lot of screens and pin downs and stuff. So he's still working on actually being able to create his own shot. But he's a guy, once again, he's just not afraid of the moment. No moment's too big for him, you know, and he's a guy that, you know, he's a solid enough defender that he can go into the NBA and get to one of these teams and he can get some really valuable minutes right away. A player comp for him. Um, I had to really think about this one. And I actually went with Gary Trent Jr., who's in Toronto now. He was with
okay.
he's been with Portland before. Really, really solid, really capable shooter. Um, a decent defender. Um, Another guy that I thought about too was Norman Powell, who I believe is he with Portland? I think he's with Portland now, but he's another guy I thought about too. Another 3-and-D type of guy. And yeah, those are my two player comps for him. I don't think that he has like superstar potential or superstar ceiling. I
But
don't
he could
really
be
see him being that type of
he,
guy.
he he's a high floor guy.
He is. He is. He's a guy who I really think can play some really, really crucial minutes for a good team right now. And I think that'll really help Cleveland to get, you know, a mature kid in there, someone who they can kind of
What
play right now.
which is crazy, I think, because they are ready for to be young guys. They're very mature,
They are.
and
They
and
are.
and yeah, and they've handled, I think they handled adversity very well. Losing to a team, and from Atlanta that, in my opinion, was just a little further ahead in their process than they are.
They
Um,
were, and they
but
and they had, you know, as even though I think Darius Garland is a good player, even though I think that Evan Mobley can be a great player, they lost to a team with
that just had somebody
one
that
of those guys.
yeah,
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 they just had one of those guys. So
yeah. And you know what? Fair enough, because I'll ride my USC wave, and I think eventually Evan Mobley can become one of those guys.
oh
Um,
yeah,
yeah,
especially toward the end of the season last year, I think he really, if he would have won Rookie of the Year, I wouldn't have had an argument with it. You know,
right.
um, I think I had Scotty Barnes getting it, and Scotty Barnes did end up getting it. But if you look at their numbers are so similar, it's not even funny. Like I
Mhm.
said, I just think, and that was the reason why I picked him too. I just think Scotty Barnes won because Toronto was a playoff team, vice Cleveland ended up falling back and being in the play-in. But
Well, then also
I mean, if
remember
you
he,
look
he
at both of
remember,
their numbers, they're eerily similar.
remember he missed some time too. That's what also I think hurt him.
Yeah,
Evan
he
Mobley,
did.
he missed some
Evan
time with
Mobley, yeah.
injury, so I think ultimately kind of did him in. But no, great roster. You add a 3-and-D guy. I hate chopping this man's name up, like Ochai Agbaji. You
Yeah.
know, add a guy of his caliber to that team, just coming off of the bench, just give him some extra juice, especially on the
Mhm.
defensive end. I think that they're trending in the right direction. Cleveland's a team that I'm not
Oh,
saying they
yeah.
don't need
Definitely.
they don't need to add a ginormous amount of pieces. I think we need to watch that young core that they have continue to grow, and they just add one to two onesie twosie pieces here and there, and then we'll see where they end up on the other. Because they got guys with superstar potential, and they got guys that are good role players already.
Oh yeah, I agree with you 100%, man. They're definitely trending in the right direction. Like I said, I hope they able to hold on to Kevin Love because I think they'll need that veteran presence. And yeah, man, I mean, I think Okai Abaji going there, I think that'll be a great fit for him.
Well, we agreed. He took the words right out my
Look at
mouth.
us. Look at us with
We're
the
here.
same player. All right. So,
Last but not least.
last but not least, our last pick in our Rooted in Basketball segment. Once
Mhm.
again, we got the Charlotte Hornets, who so they have the 13th and the 15th pick. Now, with this 15th pick, so once again, these are all hypotheticals. If Charlotte is able to get that big that they want with the 13th pick, if they're able to get one of those bigs,
Then they can
I
address the
can
wing.
almost guarantee you they're gonna flip this number 15. I can almost guarantee you that.
Well, yeah, they already got too many damn guards.
They do. They do. But with that being said, um, at 15, if they still have the pick, I think this would just be one of those situations where they go best player available. So I went through a few names and there's quite a few guys, there's some guys that are just all up and down this draft, but I figured I would go with another guy from a really good school in Ohio State, and I went with Malachi Branham. So he's a 6'5" guard, 6'5", 180 guard. Um, this was his, if I'm not mistaken, I'm sure this was his only year at Ohio State. He came out of St. Vincent St. Mary, and if
Mhm.
that school sounds familiar to you guys, that's because that's the same school that LeBron James came from out in Akron, Ohio. So yeah, he went to St. Vincent St. Mary. He actually led them to a state championship, and then he committed to Ohio State. He's a very very good shooter on all three levels. So you're talking about around the rim, mid range, 3-point shot, really good shooter on all three levels. Although he has, if you watch him, he has kind of a push shot. If you look at it, it's kind of a push shot, but it's been effective for him. He's even been able to show that he can, create his own shot off the dribble a little bit, even with that push shot. So I mean, it's worked for him thus far. He's a really versatile defender. He's 6'5", but he has a 6'11" wingspan, and he finishes really well around the basket. One of the knocks on him is that because he does have such a developing offensive game. Sometimes he has the tendency to force it. He can kind of become a little bit of a gunner. He has that tendency when his team gets down or whatever. He has a little bit of, as I like to call it, he has a little bit of a hero complex. Sometimes he likes to play what I call hero ball. So he's one of
Mhm.
those guys that if his team gets down or his team starts to struggle, he gets in his mind that he needs to just go make a play, and sometimes he will force a shot, a bad shot. Um, he's not the best passer or playmaker. So you're getting a guy who is probably just gonna kind of look to score. Kind of mid-level athleticism. Athletically, he won't jump out at you. But like I said, he's a guy who, at this point in his career, he's a really effective shooter and a really solid scorer on all three levels. Um, whew. Player comparison. Player comparison. Um, so the guy I got, he's nowhere near as athletic, but as a ceiling, as a ceiling, he could be a Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown is another guy who has
Okay.
developed into. He's another guy who has developed into a 3-level scorer and a guy who's pretty damn solid defensively as well. And that can be him. Um, he can go a lot of ways here. I also had him another player that I compared him to, and maybe kind of as a floor, if he continues to be the type of shooter that he is. I thought about Tim Hardaway Jr. out of who's with Bulls Dallas Mavericks.
Mavericks. Yeah.
Um, he's another guy that I thought of. Obviously not quite the ceiling of Jaylen Brown, but a really really solid piece on a really really good team. So yeah, that's who I if the Hornets keep this pick, I just think they go best player available, and at 15 in my draft, that's who I got for him.
Ah. So this was tough,
It
right?
was.
This one is tough because obviously we're factoring in that they get that big.
Yeah.
Um,
Or that they keep this pick.
right. So this is kind of like a gamble in itself. Um, I just had them doubling up and taking a guy that's a little bit of a project. He's a project, but he has a very well-rounded game. Struggles a little bit defensively, and that is Nikola Jovic.
Oh, the Joker.
Yeah,
Another
uh,
over Serbia, I believe. Another overseas kid.
yeah. He's a Serbian kid, 6'11", right?
Mm-hmm.
But funny enough, he's 6'11", but there are times where you see him playing small forward.
Mm-hmm.
He has he's probably one of those guys that was more of a guard, was more of a wing, but then his size kind of dictated that he become more of a big man because
Yeah.
he is a liability on defense. He's really struggling and learning how to become more physical. But on the
Right.
offensive end, he's really nice in the paint. He has a solid mid range jumper. Um, he's just a big kid, big ball of clay that I think that they
Mm-hmm.
could bring in and possibly develop with some of those other young guys that they have. But I mean, like I said, we're doing 15, a pick that they probably should trade. I said maybe they should, if they grab a big with one of their first picks. I think maybe you should explore from them. If you don't feel like it's a veteran, somebody that you have a realistic chance of getting, I think you double up on grabbing two bigs.
Mm. Interesting. Not a bad pick at all. And actually, there's a couple guys who I was gonna say, for people watching the draft and just kind of be on the lookout for, who they could possibly crack, into one of those earlier lottery picks, into one of those top 14 picks, 13 picks, excuse me. And actually, Jokic was one of those guys.
Mhm.
Um, Another guy that's starting to,
That's
he's
true.
heard some rumblings. Another guy who you kind of hear some rumblings. He's all over the draft board. His name is Jaden Hardy. He's a kid. They played with the G League Ignite last year. I was really big on him when he came out of high school. I was really hoping that he went to college, but he decided to take the G League route. But he's streaky, but he's a guy who could really be a solid scorer in this league if he puts it all together. He can shoot. He's about 6'5", I believe. But once again, he's a guy who, if he puts it all together, man, he could really be a steal. Yeah, he's 6'4", but he's a kid. If he can get it all together, he can really be a steal. A little bit of a project, but he could be a steal because he's streaky, but he can shoot the ball. And then one more kid out of Kentucky. We haven't said much about too many Kentucky guys, which is crazy. Talking about the NBA draft and not really talking about Kentucky guys.
You talking
But
about Washington?
yeah, Ty Washington.
Mhm.
He's a little bit of a combo guard. He can kind of play both positions. Um, I'll tell you what, crazy enough, if I'm gonna give him a player comparison, I think he's a poor man's Darius Garland. We were just talking about him, but he's a kid who can kind of play both positions, can kind of has an ability to create some shots on his own. He's a pretty solid playmaker out of Kentucky. And so he's another kid that don't be surprised if you hear his name called a little early and he's in that lottery, in those lottery picks there. So but yeah, man, that's it. Those are that's rooted in basketball for you, man.
We're doing basketball, and look, I'm gonna keep it completely real with y'all. I'm used to doing the NFL. This is gonna be the first year that I've ever done the NBA draft, and it's gonna be fun,
It
right?
is.
But the process is so different between but when looking at the two different sports, um,
Mm-hmm.
the pool is harder to judge because you have less developed guys coming into the
Mm-hmm.
NBA draft versus you do
Right.
the
The
NFL.
NFL, they've
Yeah,
been there for 3 years.
you have more to go off of. So this is
Mm-hmm.
like I wouldn't say complete uncharted territory, but it's a challenge for me, so I'm enjoying it.
Oh yeah, man.
Yeah.
And I think like I said, Thursday is gonna be really cool because
Mhm.
like I said, I really do think that there's going to be some movement up and down this draft. I think you're gonna see some teams try to trade up to get some pieces that they need, and I think you're gonna see some teams trade back in order to get some veteran players that they prefer. So um once again, our picks were hypothetical, just assuming that each team, keeps their picks. But yeah, don't be surprised if we see a lot of movement in the draft come Thursday, man. So I'm really excited.
Yeah, I'm gonna enjoy it. I might put my tie on and no, I'm not gonna
Not
do
the
all that.
tie now. I
It's
don't
too
know about
damn
the
hot.
tie, but I
It's heating
mean
up. It's heating up.
it
Yeah.
is gonna be my birthday, so I'm gonna probably get cut up or something, man. 'Cause I look a mess right now. You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
And
yeah.
and and I don't want to hear
Are
nothing about no hot, bro, because uh we
what's
got
it?
we
100.
got one day. It's one day this week where it's supposed to be 98 degrees, and that's the coolest day all week.
Hey,
Okay,
hey, look. I didn't did some.
hey,
I didn't look. I didn't did some time in Texas. So come on.
bro,
I paid my dues.
man, listen,
I paid my fucking dues.
this is
So and look,
Jeesh, I wasn't prepared. Somebody should have warned me.
it's a little humid.
Man, look, I had started sweating looking out the window. Okay. Oh, the real. I opened the blinds and instantly it just came down.
Look, it be so damn humid over there. I remember when I first got to Texas when I was younger, it was so damn humid out there. I felt like I was about to suffocate, like I was about to drown
hmm
because it's just so much water in the air. But yeah,
hmm
so pretty hot. But um now I guess now it's time to focus on before we close out. We're gonna close out with a little bit of football. We had some controversial comments. I mean, as
Oh
always,
yeah.
I guess we can't be surprised because Bart Scott will fucking say anything that
Oh
comes to his
yeah.
mind. Yeah,
And so and then he was Jets, and then did he spend a little time in Baltimore?
he did. He did.
Jets
If
in
I'm not
Baltimore,
mistaken,
yeah.
if I'm not
And
mistaken, he was
wasn't
in
a, and
Baltimore.
he's a really solid, pretty solid linebacker too. Not
Yeah,
it's not no
yeah.
scrub we're talking about here. Pretty
No, no,
solid
no, no, no,
linebacker.
no, no. Bart Scott was okay. You have the premier elite creme de la creme guys, and he's probably like a step under that. He's like
hmm
probably like a notch under that. Guys that were more so like just really good Pro Bowlers,
Yeah,
fan favorites.
yeah,
So think of him like an Antonio Pierce
yeah.
or my guy is Sean Lee, right? Like a 2, 3 time Pro Bowler that's well respected in the league.
Yeah, so I mean, this isn't a his opinion is to be heard. This isn't
Mhm.
coming from a scrub. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So what he said, I'll let you read it. What did Bart Scott say?
So basically, he was saying that for him, he was saying that when we're talking about Tom Brady and Peyton Manning, he basically said that, and other defenders during that era would agree with him that it was much tougher facing Peyton Manning than it was Tom Brady. Basically he was saying that basically he was alluding to Tom Brady was more so a product of the system. And this is what I'll say. This is my thing. It's not even so much that I disagree with what he said, because
Mhm.
I think that Peyton Manning was the offense. Like there's been guys on the coast that have said that there's guys on the coast that said that they didn't even have offensive coordinator, wasn't even at practice. Like Peyton Manning was just calling the play, running the offense, flawlessly on his own. And I think a lot of times we do see Tom Brady where he'll get a call and you see him. His receivers had a lot of option routes, and you'll see him kind of doing a lot of audibling at the line, which we've seen Peyton Manning do too. But I
Mhm.
think that
Especially on Madden.
because, yeah, but I think that because Peyton Manning had so much control of the offense, I can see why Bart Scott would make those comments. But I just think the tone and the manner that he says it,
Was
it just kind
disrespectful.
of, yeah, I think it just kind of came across as if like,
Haterish. It came across
yeah,
a little
as
bit.
if like Tom Brady was just some bum. You know what I'm saying? And to allude to him being a system guy, I mean, I put it like this. Okay, so if he's a system guy, then how do you explain him winning a championship with Tampa Bay? If he's such a system guy, and if this guy here who's he's, and don't get me wrong, I think Peyton Manning is great. You know what I'm saying? Like I think you can argue that Peyton Manning may be probably the smartest quarterback to play the position. Probably has one of the highest IQs to play the position.
Yeah, most definitely.
But we can't overlook some of the shortcomings that he's had in his career, because offensively, I feel like he's always had weapons, but
And
he's
I'm
consistently come up short. He's made it to 4 Super Bowls. He's won 2. One of them he was really carried to.
Yeah, he was. They had all world defense.
They did.
2015.
So I mean, don't get me wrong. I still think obviously Peyton Manning is an all-time great quarterback, but I think it's fair to say he might have even underachieved when it comes to the Super Bowl victories. You know what I'm saying? Because
Mm-hmm.
constant, first, second seeds and constant upsets. You know what I'm saying in the playoffs. So I don't know. I just don't like the way and the tone of what he said. The way it came out, as if Tom Brady was just, whatever, man. We ain't got a game plan for the dude, because he definitely did.
So this is the way I see it. So we're along the same lines, but what I try to explain to people is you got to respect what Peyton Manning did for the game. He brought a cerebral approach the game has never seen. I mean, that's why you had defensive line before Peyton Manning. Defensive linemen were not getting up. Entire front sevens weren't walking around like, and then last minute, when the ball hikes, then they show their true formation or what the actual play is. But they did so much. Defensive coordinators went through all lengths just to try to confuse Peyton Manning. So that's what he brought to the game. But I think when you're looking at the comparison between him and Tom Brady, Peyton Manning is a more talented guy. Probably had a better arm. Both of them coming out. Obviously, I think Peyton's a little older. Peyton came out 98, 99, and Tom came in a little after him. But Tom Brady, when people talk about him as a system guy, I think this is Tom Brady's greatest strength. He's the greatest game manager that this game has ever seen. He can
But
manage the game.
you got to be careful when you say because that game manager term, it doesn't necessarily have the most positive connotation behind it.
But when looking at how he's flipped it and how he's changed the narrative of what a game manager is, you have to respect what a game manager is. Because the truth is what I love about Tom Brady is that it's not an ego thing. I'm ego, but it's about winning to him.
Agreed.
If Tom Brady has to hand the ball off 30 times in a row to win a game, he'll do that.
He'll do that. Yep.
I mean,
if he throws the ball 40 times and they're all 7 and 8 yard dink and dumps, he's thrown it 40 times for 200 yards. As long as they win the game, he's content.
He's content. And that's why Tom Brady is a better winner than Peyton Manning is. It's not a talent thing. And I try to tell people that all the time in regards to football, sports period, but football, all about talent. If it was all about talent, then Jamarcus Russell will still be in the league. He'd probably be a 10-time Pro Bowler, Hall of Famer, right? But we all know how that story ended. Peyton Manning is too smart for his own goddamn good. And I think that the example I use of why I would take a Tom Brady 10 times out of 10 and is you look at when they played the Seattle Seahawks and they played them a year apart in the Super Bowl.
Okay.
Right. They lost. We all seen when Denver played Seattle and Seattle
went out there and smacked them.
They beat the shit out of them. And then
the opening play, they were so rattled. I think when the opening play was when the snap went over Manning's head, right?
Yeah.
And they got the safety, right? Yeah.
Yeah, they got the safety. So that was the first play. But obviously the entire team was kind of shell shocked, but I never will forget seeing the look on face in that game, because one thing Peyton Manning has been on record saying is he prides himself on not being outsmarted, on having a high football IQ, of being able to, outsmart defenses. And he was so frustrated against that Seattle Seahawks team because for the first time in his career, he couldn't move my mind. And he was just, and Richard Sherman, they asked Richard Sherman after the game, after the fact, what did Seattle do? Because Denver, that was a high-powered offense.
It was.
I mean, there was enough. They
He
broke
had
records.
broke all kind of records that season.
All kind of records. He had weapons, right? Demarius to the late great Demarius Thomas,
Demarius
Wes
Thomas,
Welker, Julius Thomas, Eric Decker, who was
Decker.
I'm a
Yep.
big Eric Decker fan. He had a slew of running backs. No Sean Marino, Ronnie Hillman. But Richard Sherman said this. He said, "We didn't do anything special." He said, "We just played our scheme. We watched tape. We was able to decipher their hand signals. One thing that those Seattle teams, they were really good. They were really good at watching tape under Dan Quinn. That's one thing that they were phenomenal at. But they were able to decipher some of his hand signals, and they just sat on certain routes and they were aggressive. And that was with Denver. Now you look at when they played Tom Brady the very next year. And for him, what I like about Tom Brady is that he'll struggle, but he's all about, okay, what can we do to figure this out? And you saw the first quarter of that game. It was a similar story, maybe not as bad, but Seattle was they were getting to him. They was putting pressure on him. I want to say he threw an interception or two in the first half.
They were down 10 going into the fourth quarter. It was 24-14 going into the fourth quarter. I vividly remember that.
Exactly. But you seen Tom Brady keep chomping at the bit. He never got he didn't get rattled. Because the difference between Peyton Manning and Tom Brady is Peyton Manning, okay, I'm gonna make you think that I'm doing this, but I'm gonna put the ball here. I'm gonna make you think it's going to Dallas Clark, but in all honesty, we're designing a play for it to go to Reggie Wayne. Tom Brady is the ball is going to Rob Gronkowski. Stop it. I don't care. Stop it. And I never forget it. This was the year. As a matter of fact, this is the year that Denver won it in 15.
Okay.
And Peyton Manning got carried. And they played the Patriots in the AFC Championship. And Denver made it out that game by the skin of their teeth. But I remember that's a phenomenal defense. Von Miller, DeMarcus Ware, Malik Jackson.
I think I remember that. That game was in Denver, right? I think I remember that.
It was in Denver because Denver was the higher seed. Yeah. And so the fourth quarter of that game, Tom Brady and the Patriots start coming back.
Right.
And he's going, he has that same route to Rob Gronkowski that he catches it over two people, and they get in the red zone. And let's be honest, you watch the Patriots during that time. Who's the ball going to in the red zone?
Gronk.
It's going to Gronk. And he throws it to the back left corner of the end zone to Rob Gronkowski. And they knew the ball was going to Rob Gronkowski, and they double cover him, I want to say, with Bradley Roby and one other corner. I don't know who the other player was. Tom Brady threw it to him anyways. Rob Gronkowski catches it, back left corner of the end zone. And I remember Bradley Roby putting his hands up like, what could we even do?
What do I do? Yeah. What do you do?
So when I look at, I think Tom Brady's just a superior competitor, and he embodies what football is to me. This is not a Tom Brady fanboy thing, but I try to level set people when it comes to comparing the two. Peyton Manning, cerebral guy, brought a lot of interesting things to the game. But when it comes to actually playing football and not doing the cute shit and just doing the down and dirty, that's what Tom Brady's here for.
And I think that's what Bart Scott has to be careful of, because, just like you said about how cerebral Peyton Manning is, well, defenders, they lost sleep at night thinking that, or knowing that when they get up on Sunday, they're going to look across at the ultimate competitor. You know what I'm saying? Granted, okay, X's and O's, all that's good and fine and dandy, all that's great. But now the rubber finna meet the road. Now you're looking across at one of those dudes who he's like a quarterback with a linebacker's mentality. Like, he wants to cut your heart out. You know what I'm saying?
His will to win is
it's like a Michael Jordan's or a Kobe Bryant's in basketball. Yeah. And you can, I'm not saying that Peyton Manning doesn't have that will to win, but it's just not like a Tom Brady's,
I think his and I said this earlier, but I think his ego has affected him maybe more than we even know.
And who are you speaking of?
Oh, Peyton Manning, by far.
Manning?
Because he's always been, even when he was at Tennessee, Peyton Manning was always the guy.
Yeah.
He was always the shit. He was always the creme de la creme. And, you even hear stories about when he was in Denver that they said he would call out coaches in front of everybody, like in team meetings, like make them stand up and everything. Like he was running that offense with an iron fist. And one thing I always loved about Tom Brady is no matter how big he got, he was never, even though we've seen him throw a couple of temper tantrums and throw his helmet and stuff
Mm-hmm.
like that, but he's never gotten too big to defer to Josh McDaniels.
Yeah. And I also think, and you hear this a lot, and we got to kind of give Bill Belichick credit where it's due because no matter how big he got, Bill Belichick, right, wrong, or indifferent, no matter how you felt about him, he still treated Tom Brady like he was one of the 53 guys. Like he was just,
He
like
did.
he's still trying
Yeah,
to earn his spot, you
yeah, he
know?
did.
And he was willing to do the unthinkable. He wanted to do the unthinkable, which was replace Tom Brady at a time where he was still winning MVPs. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? So, I mean, I think you got to give Bill Belichick some credit for that as well. But yeah, man, I don't know. I just think like I said, it just came across, really, really disrespectful. And don't get me wrong, Peyton Manning, he's he's great, man. He's great, but to say guys just it was just another thing to just, go across and see that you playing Tom Brady on any given Sunday. That's a little blasphemous.
I'll make a comparison and I'll tell you how the hell this shit sounds. Right.
Okay.
Bart Scott saying it was harder preparing for Peyton Manning versus Tom Brady, which very well may be true in a sense. I agree. Is like when Amanda Nunes said it was harder for her to prepare for Misha Tate than
Ugh.
Ronda Rousey.
But and then
And
which I was gonna say, this is my thing too. It's almost like it's almost like he was implying that Tom Brady isn't cerebral in his own right. Like like do you not think that man ain't going home, what I'm saying, with the remote in his hand, rewinding plays
watching tape.
hours and hours and hours a day? Because I mean, what Giselle taking care of the kids, that man ain't doing nothing. He probably right now he probably at the crib somewhere with a tape in. Him and Byron Leftwich is sitting up somewhere thinking like, man, we finna tear these mofos up next year.
And I'll tell you this. If anything, and this may sound like a slight, and people may call me crazy. I think it speaks volumes that Tom Brady's still playing now, and Peyton Manning's not. Tom Brady goes, from my understanding, he is very similar to LeBron, is to where he takes a lot of measures to take care of his body and make sure
Mm-hmm.
he's at top performance, peak performance for his body. He changed his diet completely. If I'm not mistaken, he has I don't know if it's gluten free, but he cut a lot of things out of his diet.
Mm-hmm.
From what I heard, he doesn't consume alcohol during the regular season at all. Like
Smart.
smart. He's really about this life. He's doing everything he can to win.
To
And then you
preserve
look at
his body
to
and keep
preserve his
going as
body,
long as he can.
right? Whereas Peyton Manning is the guy that got smacked around and maybe
And
didn't
maybe the
know.
injury, the injury, the neck injury, it might have took a couple years off from him. Who knows? You
Oh
know what I'm
yeah,
saying?
yeah, yeah. It definitely did. And this is what I will end with.
Mm-hmm.
This is one thing we can, and I know you mentioned, you shed a little bit of light on it earlier. One thing we can never say is that Tom Brady had a better supporting cast offensively than what Peyton Manning had.
Come on,
Tom Brady
come on.
has always done more with
With
less,
less,
with
off,
less offensively. And the
yeah,
first time, and what do we say this? The first time he got a prototypical number one wide receiver, he
he
broke a
darn near
he
went
broke record.
undefeated, and
He
then darn near went undefeated all the way to you know what I'm saying? So yeah, and I
yeah.
mean, I'm sure Brady would have loved to have, and that's not to say. I'll say this, you know what I'm saying? If they were to switch positions, if you put Peyton Manning on the New England Patriots, they're still successful. They still win Super Bowls. But I think that there's just something, like you mentioned earlier, to that will to win in Tom Brady that I don't think they're as successful with Peyton Manning as they are with Tom Brady.
I
But on the flip side, I think if you put Tom Brady on that Colts team and he has Marvin Harrison for a lifetime, and Reggie Wayne and Dallas Clark and Edgerrin James in his prime. Oh man.
Now, okay, so I will say this: Tom Brady went to a great situation. He was allowed to develop, and given the time that a lot of quarterbacks are not. Now he came in, he was already a good game manager, and he was able to do the little things to help New England win football games early on.
Right.
But you saw his maturation as a quarterback. I tell people, Tom Brady didn't become a high volume passer till like Act 2 of his career. Because this first
I say
5 or 6,
was what I think his.
it was about year 5.
I was gonna
It
say
was
about
about
oh 05,
it,
about oh
it,
05 or so, oh
yeah,
05, oh 06.
yeah. It was about,
After that first Super Bowl,
it,
those first set of Super Bowls.
exactly. That's when he became he took off and he became a high volume passer. Before that, he was just a game manager. I mean, there was nothing wrong with that. He was helping to win games.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that Tom Brady could have went to a franchise where he had to be the guy right away and would have had an enormous amount of success. I think that's one thing. One argument I will give Peyton Manning is that he was much more prepared to be in that type of, in that type of role early on, take the licks. And Peyton Manning struggled early on. He threw a
Yeah.
whole hell of a lot of picks. I think he's had the record for most
And
interceptions
his
in his
rookie
career.
year, he had to yeah.
Yeah. Now on the other end, if Peyton Manning has to go to New England, I'll be honest. I think that
If he's throwing
it
the
could
ball
take
to Troy Brown and Kevin Falk is his running back, you know
Kevin
what I'm
Falk.
saying?
I was a big Kevin Falk fan.
Man,
He
nah.
look. He was the premier third down back in the National Football League. Am I
I
wrong?
mean, he
He
was,
was.
he was,
Mhm.
he was kind of James White before James White,
Yeah,
but
but I'll say this: Peyton Manning. I don't know how. I think he goes to New England and he gets neutered. Because a lot of that mouthy stuff that he was doing in
mhm.
Indy, Bill wouldn't have that shit.
Bro, Tom Brady got Deion Branch paid. He got Deion. Deion. They won a Super Bowl. He went to Seattle. He took that money and ran to Seattle. Ain't heard from
He,
him
he,
since.
he stole money, and remember he came back. I wanted them to win another championship. They had lost in New York that second
Mm,
time, but he came back. Deion Branch came back. But you're right. Tom Brady has. You can honestly say that Tom Brady has made guys better.
yeah, yeah.
Has made
I
guys
mean, no,
significantly
no
better.
slight on Edelman, but come on, man. Like, come on, man. he done made.
Hey, look, watch this.
He
Watch
has
this.
people seriously considering Julian Edelman as a Hall of Famer.
And you know my answer to that.
I mean, I agree. I don't think so either, but
Let him in, but you better let a whole lot of other guys in before him. But that's another story for another day.
word.
But yeah, so that's where we stand on Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, both great quarterbacks. Tom Brady's the better competitor. Peyton Manning is the more cerebral mind. Both have contributed vast amounts to the National Football League and history. So yeah, let's respect both guys, but I think we both know
Yeah,
who is superior, who we hold in a higher light. He'll be playing next year. Um,
agree. Possibly going for another Super Bowl. I think they'll be right there.
yeah, oh yeah, they're right. They're contenders. They're definitely contenders. But since we're speaking of comparisons, right? We did this comparison. We got one more to close out the record books, and this I had to set it straight. We were on Rooted in Sports Community, and sometimes people I have to forgive people. They become victims of the moment, prisoners
Word.
of the moment, and I love the season that Cooper Cup had.
I agree.
Uh, it was a great
Triple
year.
crown. Triple
Triple
crown.
crown, triple crown. Great season. But if I'm gonna be 100% honest, he might barely and might and maybe if structured the right way, he's probably at 5 for me at wide receiver. He's probably like the 5th best wide receiver to me, maybe 6th.
Okay. Okay. So, who are the 4, possibly 5 guys you're putting in front of him? Now, obviously, and I agree. Obviously, the other guy who we have in this conversation, Devontae Adams, is ahead of him. I do think Devontae Adams is better.
Okay,
But who are the other, 4 or
Devon,
5 guys you put ahead of him?
Devontae Adams. I mean, maybe if we're going off, he was hurt, but DeAndre Hopkins to me is that's not close.
I agree. I agree.
I think Justin Jefferson is much better, and Justin Jefferson is scaring me because I think Justin Jefferson can, if he continues on the trajectory he's continuing on, we're going to be talking, and this guy's next. We're going to be talking about who's the best receiver in football out of him and Jamar Chase. I think both of those guys are superior to Cooper Kupp. And
so you're willing to put Jamar Chase ahead of Cooper Kupp right 100%. Now for one season?
Okay, we people talk about Cooper Kupp. I mean, after one big, humongous season, granted he's been productive throughout his years in the National Football League, but after this one big season, people are like, oh, he's the best receiver in football. And I mean, come on, man, he's never looked like this player. I thought he's always been an effective player, a high end number 2, an elite slot. But I mean, come on, 19, almost 2,000 yards. He had 16 touchdowns. He had a great season.
But you would still put Chase ahead of him.
100%. And it's because you have to look at, this is what I point out to people. You have to look at how Cooper Kupp is getting some of these yards. Now, one thing about Cooper Kupp is he's very well-rounded. We could say that he's amongst the NFL's elite as a route runner.
Route runners, okay.
He's an elite yak guy. He's gonna get yards after the catch.
Yeah.
And he has a very high football IQ, and he knows how to find holes and stuff in coverage.
So when you think all of that factors in,
it does.
Because I think like Jamar Chase reminds me of, and it's crazy to make this comparison. Obviously, he's nowhere near as fast, but he reminds me of early Tyreek Hill. Now, obviously, Tyreek Hill has definitely developed into more of a well-rounded wide receiver. But I think Jamar Chase, and no shade to him, I think that he's a phenomenal receiver. But I think that right now he's just a really great deep threat. Like even you just said, you know what I'm saying? I don't think he's anywhere near the route runner that Cooper Kupp is, you know what I'm saying? Granted, he's still early. This was his first season, but obviously I don't think his IQ is at the level of Cooper Kupp's now.
But I think he's more dynamic.
Well, yeah, because I mean you seen him get a lot of deep balls.
Well, not just
him constantly taking the top off.
He's not only as a deep threat, he's definitely going to get money as a yak. He's up there in the NFL as a yak guy as well. He can win more contested. I think he's can win more contested balls than Cooper Kupp can.
Okay.
So let me point this out. This is my thing about Cooper Kupp. This is why I'm critical of putting him above some of these guys right now. It's because when you watch that tape, I said this during the season, he benefits a lot from Sean McVay's genius. And I'm watching some of the plays that Sean McVay is drawing up for him. And let's be honest, Sean McVay has such a bright offensive mind. He can find a way to spring me open. And I may not get no 50 yards, but I'm going to get a catch and get a first down. Like, he's that smart. And Cooper Kupp benefits a lot from free releases. They have him off the line a lot. They run a lot of rub routes. They run a lot of trick plays. I've seen a trick play where Cooper Kupp, faked like he was going in a block, and then it wound up being a drag route, and he gets thrown the ball and he gets 20, 30 yards a yak.
I think they do it slightly differently, but I think McVay and Kyle Shanahan in San Francisco, I think they're two of the best offensive minds in the league.
They are. They are. So, one thing they said about Cooper Kupp is the reason why it's so hard to stop him. One, Sean McVay built that scheme, especially once I guess he had to make an executive decision. He built that offense around Cooper Kupp's skill set. Mm-hmm. And if you really watch the other pieces in that system,
you think he did that more so this season?
This season.
Because I think coming into this season, I think they still felt. I think Robert Woods was probably their number one guy until he got hurt.
But I think that Cooper Kupp was the guy that, I said this. What Sean McVay did is he made, and you're seeing this happen in the National Football League now. he made Cooper Kupp as a slot his number one option. And that gave him a lot. That really opened up the playbook for him. And you kind of saw every other piece in that offense play off of what Cooper Kupp did. Everybody's a byproduct of what they want to do with Cooper Kupp.
But it's crazy you say that because I think that's one of the reasons why I would still take, Devontae Adams ahead of him, because I think in Green Bay, not so much or as much as McVay did with Cooper Kupp, but I think one of the better things about Devontae Adams is that he can be really successful no matter where you put him. I think you could put him inside, out. He can be successful no matter where you put him, where you line him up at.
When you're watching, and this is what I challenge anybody to do, especially people that disagree with me, Bo, if you're there. When you watch Cooper Kupp's tape and watch Devontae Adams tape. By the way, Pro Football Focus has Devontae Adams rated as the number one wide receiver 2 years in a row, 2020 and 2021, including this year that Cooper Kupp led the league statistically.
Mm-hmm.
Devontae Adams and DeAndre Hopkins as well, when he's healthy, they could be in a phone booth, and guys could be in their chest, on their hip. They're gonna catch that ball and come down with it. They're not getting free releases. So when you watch those guys tape, they're making spectacular one-handed catches with one, sometimes two defenders draped all over them.
Mm-hmm.
Cooper Kupp is not dealing with that because Sean McVay is making it as such that he doesn't. I mean, let's be honest. In the Super Bowl, we saw not his second touchdown, his first touchdown. He drew a linebacker. I'm watching plays, and he's getting layups and mismatches against linebackers and strong safeties. Now, this is not every play. I've seen him cook some corners too. I'm not disrespecting the man's game, but I want people to understand that his success this year, especially that amount of yardage, is part of his ascension, obviously as a player and becoming an elite route runner and having a high football IQ and having his own great skill set. It's 50-50 that and Sean McVay's genius. Whereas you watch Devontae Adams, I say this, if Cooper Kupp did that, imagine what Devontae Adams would do in that position.
True.
He'd act a goddamn fool.
I agree. And I also think, and then especially when you think about Devontae Adams and the teams that he's been on, and then DeAndre Hopkins and the teams that he's been on, especially even going back to his Texan days, I think Cooper Kupp, this is like the first year where we've seen Cooper Kupp really be that number one option. But Cooper Kupp has always played around other really good to borderline great receivers.
Yeah, you know Brandon Cooks. Brandon Cooks was there.
Cooks. Consider this, at one point, Cooper Kupp was like the third option,
Yeah.
They had Woods and Cook and then him, you know what I'm saying? And he was still, don't get me wrong, like it was solid. I'm not surprised to see the success that he had because I think you can see he had the tools, it was there for him. But I wouldn't disagree with you that a lot of it might have to do with McVay's system.
Exactly. And once again, he's and I say
I still don't know if I still don't know.
I would take
Jamar Chase. If I put Jamar Chase over him quite
yet. I would take Jamar Chase because it's just because you look at some of the things that Jamar Chase is doing in single coverage, and I just haven't quite seen those things from Cooper Kupp. I think Jamar Chase is better. I think
Jamar Chase is a little more naturally gifted, though.
He is. He's more naturally gifted. My player comp for Jamar Chase is he is Anquan Bolden if he ran a 4.3-4.4. Okay. Same build, 6'1", 215, 220, right? Heavier, but he has more natural speed. But he's a very well-rounded in his game. But Justin Jefferson is on a whole nother level. Like
so you said Devontae Adams, DeAndre Hopkins, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase.
And
I'll throw the fifth guy in there. I'll say Stephon Diggs.
And that's fair. Okay, so look. Fair enough. If you want to throw Stephon Diggs on there, I'm going to tell you a guy that if he can get back to playing like himself, he's battled injuries. If if Mike Thomas comes back and is Mike Thomas, I'm putting him at 5 because I've seen Mike Thomas have 1,700 yards in this league with damn Traquan Smith on the other side of him.
They threw him a lot of balls though. He got
but here's the thing.
An absurd amount of targets.
But here's the thing. He had to because he didn't have anybody else with him. Who's Traquan? Let's be honest. Is anybody game planning for Traquan Smith?
No.
Not a soul. So Can't Guard Mike came into a situation from Ohio State where he went to the New Orleans Saints and he was the guy. He was the guy probably as a rookie and from there on out. So I haven't seen
I guess we can't forget about him, but I'm not gonna put I can't. I mean, we're at least 2 seasons removed from that guy. You know, I can't put him ahead of Cooper Kupp right now.
Not right now, but I'm telling you, by season's end, if he looks like himself coming to the season, because all reports are looking like he's going to be prepared, he's going to be here back by training camp. Then I'm gonna have to slide him into that 5th spot.
So
that's me though.
I can't quite give you Jamar Chase. So I think not in this order, but I think I would obviously say, you know, Devontae Adams, DeAndre Hopkins. I can agree with Justin Jefferson. The kid's a stud. I would probably say Stephon Diggs. I love Stephon Diggs. And then I think I have to have Cooper Kupp in there. You know, and Jamar, Jamar Chase is a close 6. Though. He's a close 6.
And respectfully so. I'm not mad at people for putting Cooper Kupp in your top 5. He's just not top 2 or top 3 to me.
Mm-hmm.
That's just where I stand. I just going off of this last season, it was impressive. And you get guys that have great seasons. I mean, let's be honest. There was a year where Miles Austin led the league in receiving yards.
Oh,
and he was the number 1 Pro Bowl voted wide receiver. That doesn't mean that he was the league's
I don't think this will be an anomaly for him though. I think that moving forward, you're gonna see him produce a few 1,000-yard seasons. Now, I don't think not 1,900 yards. You know, he's not gonna. I don't think he'll ever touch that again. You know,
no.
But you're gonna see him. I think you'll see him consistently put together a string of 1,000-yard seasons.
Oh, of course,
barring any health scares.
And that's the issue. You got to bank on him being healthy. He played the most games he's ever played this year at 15.
Word.
So that's kind of what you got to factor in. But outside of that, man, like I said, I respect that guy's game. But I have to look at what Sean McVay is doing as an offensive play caller. Another player who this is who I feel about. Deebo Samuel might be the bottom of my top 10. He might be out of my top 10.
Yeah, I think he's a byproduct. Nothing against him. I think he's a byproduct. And I think he's more in that gadget guy realm for me.
Right.
You know, no slight against him. I mean, I think he's a hell of a football player. I think he's just a great football player, you know.
Right.
As far as just a pure wide receiver.
No.
As far as just a pure wide receiver, honestly, I probably named 10 guys that I think
better pure wide receivers, yeah.
Yeah, but I think that he's just a great football player, which works for him. No slight to him, though. I mean, he can be, and like you said, Kyle Shanahan, and that's why I said he kind of has to be careful what he asks for, and I think it's the same with Tyreek Hill, because you know, if Deebo was to go somewhere else, I'm not sure if any other team will be able to put together schemes and things to really make use of the things that Deebo can do the best, the way Kyle Shanahan has.
And that is why I told people, I said, somebody gonna mess around and take the bait, and they gonna sign this man to a big contract, expecting him to come in and give you annual 1,000-yard seasons and be treated as a true number 1. Not saying he can't win on his routes, because he can, but this isn't like a supremely skilled wide receiver. He's a guy that is athletic, and you can move him around and do so many things with him. I mean, people are acting like this year is a revelation. As a rookie, Kyle Shanahan was putting him on jet sweeps, and you were seeing him.
He was another guy that kind of had a few injury problems that he was trying to deal with staying healthy too.
But this is the first. Watch this, similar to Cooper. This is the first year that he's really been healthy.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a guy that is essentially an injury concern, and you
Mm-hmm.
have questions about what he can do skill set wise as an X receiver. Maybe he's a slot. I don't know. But for San Fran, tell you the truth, they still got Brandon Ayuk, who actually
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Brandon Ayuk
That kid's
actually
coming.
Brandon Ayuk actually has a very similar skill set, and not only can he do some of the things that Debo can do, moving around, and I've seen Brandon Ayuk go on jet sweeps, and he breaking tackles and stuff as well. But he's a better
Mm-hmm.
receiver. He's probably a better pure
I
receiver.
was just gonna say I think he's a better pure receiver than Debo Samuel is. And once
Right?
again, I mean, it sounds like we're sliding him. I'm not trying to slide him at all. I
No,
think
no,
that
no.
he's like I said, I just think that Debo is just a really good football player. But there's at least 10 guys that I'd say are better wide receivers than Debo Samuel. That's just what it is.
Yeah, but guys got to get
And
their
like I
money.
said with with Tyreek Hill, I mean, and once again, I do think he has made himself a really good wide receiver, but I think you got to be careful what he asks for because I'm not too sold on Tua. You know what I'm saying? Even and then I first of all, I don't think Tua has all those deep balls, and I don't think Tua has that type of arm strength to be
No, he
getting the
doesn't.
ball like that. You know what I'm
He
saying?
doesn't.
Which I think is really going to force Tyreek to really be a really sound route runner and hope that Tua can show the same type of accuracy that he showed at Alabama. Because in these first 2 seasons, one of the things that they thought was a strength is in his accuracy
Is
hasn't quite been that.
right. No, that's true. That's true. But I think Tyreek is so talented. He may not have the statistical output that he had, the highs that he had in Kansas City, but I still think
Mm-hmm.
he'll be very effective. He'll still be 1,000-yard guy because outside of his speed, he really has honed his craft as a route runner and just becoming a more well-rounded pure. Because when he first came in the league, people forget Tyreek Hill. He went to Oklahoma State. He got kicked out for some. I think got kicked out for some domestic stuff,
Mm-hmm.
but he went to college as a running back. So
Oh,
he
I didn't
was
know that. I didn't
yeah,
know that.
he was a running back first, and then he transitioned and became a wideout after. So he really had to work on his game. When he came in the league, even when he first started rising to stardom, he really was just a really fast player with some wide
Exactly.
receiver skills. But you saw him really work on those parts of his game, and he could be I wouldn't say he's an X, but he's a guy that you can move around and he can be a consistent 1,000-yard guy for you.
And maybe, they also got another speedster on the other end and Jalen Waddle. So I mean, who knows? Maybe he can be that second wide receiver to kind of take some pressure off of him, and maybe they can figure some things out there. But I know this is, not to get too far off topic, but this is the epitome of a make or break season for Tua. Like this,
No, it
I
is,
think, I think that
and
he,
he knows it.
yeah,
He
I think
he,
he
he knows.
he has to have a really great season. He has to take some phenomenal strides and really be a leader. And they have to at least, I mean, I look at it like this, they've been contending, for a playoff spot the last 2 years. You know what I'm saying? I think they were a 10-win season 2 years ago, and then 9 wins last year, but they won 8 of 9 to close the season.
Right.
So I
And
know they
just
got a
barely
new
missed the playoffs. Yeah.
exactly. I know they got a new coach and everything, but I think that has to be at least a standard for them. They have to be at least in the fight for a playoff spot. And Tua has to perform, otherwise they're gonna be getting them up out of there.
Well, yeah, and especially because you look at this next year's draft, it's about 5 or 6 legit. Not like this year. This year was, I wouldn't say it's an anomaly, but it's like a solar eclipse,
Real quick,
a lunar
I don't want
eclipse.
us to go too long. We're gonna get up out of here, but real quick, next year's draft. I know there's CJ Shroud, the kid out of Ohio State. Who else is out there? Real quick.
You got Bryce Young from Alabama.
Oh,
Um,
I forgot about Bryce Young.
you got a name that's popping up. His name is Will Nevis. I think he plays for Kentucky. And
Okay,
he's actually looking like a pretty talented prospect. I don't know all of their names. I know
I had
Miami has.
I had
Yeah.
forgot all about Bryce Young.
Oh yeah. Bryce Young is, it's funny because you look at both of them and I could see why somebody would want CJ Stroud over Bryce Young, but I could see why somebody would want Bryce Young over CJ. His arm is live. He has a beautiful arm.
Mm.
Like, he has a quick release. He has an NFL like release. And I think he has more touch on his throws and stuff like that. He definitely is the better pure passer than CJ Stroud is. But CJ Stroud is a bigger kid. He fits more of what the prototypical quarterback is, and he's a pretty damn good passer in his own right. He's actually out of Southern California, I think from Rancho Cucamonga. That's where CJ Stroud is from. But
and USC couldn't get him.
Oh, look, those days. Watch this. Those days are gone. Those days of not being able to get guys in our fucking backyard. Those days are gone. But
we shall see.
Well, yeah, but yeah. So speaking, just in talking about Tua or a lot of quarterbacks that are any quarterback that's on the hot seat. The reason they are not only because maybe the team has doubts about their skill set, but there's supposed to be some very good quarterbacks coming out in next year's draft. Like I said, a good 5 or 6 that are projected to go first round. So, you get that 1-year tryout. That's why I'll respect what the franchise is doing, even though I don't feel like they should have fired their head coach. But what they're doing is they're giving Tua the keys and are saying, look, like we're going to do everything in our power to see you be successful. But you're at the end of the day, you can't say that we didn't help you or we didn't put you in a position to succeed. So you have to win. You have to do something with it. So it's kind of like they put everything. They gave him everything. They put the ball in his court, and now they're going to be hands off. And if he fails, hell, they just gonna go draft one of the quarterbacks next year. And
they've loaded him with speed all over the field because if I'm not mistaken, they got Raheem Mostert as well. And we know if he's healthy, he's we talking about another 4-3 guy or something like that. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I mean, they're speed all over the field, man. So yeah, we'll see what happens, man. We shall see.
But we have went long. It's been a long episode.
Yeah, we have, man. Good episode though. Good episode either way.
And I'm gonna be even more honest with you guys. I went out for Juneteenth yesterday, and I was hung over. Right, I muscled through the day. I made sure I drank some coffee, took some electrolytes. I took me a small little nap. But the truth is, this I'm recovering from our new federal holiday.
See, because you think you're grown. See, that's your problem. You think you're grown.
I was trying to be grown, and now I'm paying the price.
The nerve. But yeah, man. As always, another great episode. So this is a special week because this is a 2-episode week because we will be doing the NFL draft this Thursday, June 23rd, which also happens to be my birthday. So if for no other reason, man, just come on, at least come on with me a happy birthday because I am on my birthday and I'm still on the grind. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna do this, man. Really excited about the NBA draft. We're gonna do the whole first round. I know the draft is, it's 2 rounds. It's gonna be long. You know what I'm saying? But we're gonna definitely cover the whole first round and see where we at with our mock drafts and really break down some of the picks, some of the trades that I know are going to happen, and maybe winner and losers of the night. So it's gonna be a really great night. And so be on the lookout for that on Thursday. Obviously, for those who don't know, we keep mentioning the Rooted in Sports community on Twitter. Give them the Rooted in Sports info, bro. Twitter Spaces every Saturday,
12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, or
12 Pacific. That'll be 2 Central for the guys in the Central.
And 3 p.m. Eastern,
like me,
Eastern
3 p.m.
Standard.
Eastern. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's every Saturday, man. You guys, it's just go Rooted in Sports on Twitter. And they're on Twitter Spaces, every Saturday, and that's really like an open forum, an open platform. There's a ton of guys in there. It seemed to be growing by the week, and I mean, guys really be going at it. Like if you really into sports talk and really into debate,
banter,
and some real banter, like it get a little real in there. You know what I'm saying? So get on in there and listen and be heard. You know what I'm saying? Because it's awesome. You know what I'm saying? Obviously, my boy, you got the break room breakdown going on. You know what I'm saying? What can we look forward to? Anything to look forward to?
Oh, well, we just released the episode about a week ago. Mental health in the NFL. Talked a little bit about that. Follow up on Marion Barber. So, and I'm recording another episode this week. We'll jump into some basketball, some college basketball, but a plot twist on the female side. right? We'll actually be
Ah.
interviewing a female coach, right? So it'll be interesting.
Mm.
So check out the break room breakdown. I want to say, look, I'm losing track. I didn't, there's so many episodes. I want to say it's episode 26, but it'll
Mm.
be it'll be available for streaming on all major platforms next Tuesday.
Love the female collegiate basketball. Love the WNBA. You know, they really, you know, a lot of people, you know, they throw little jabs and they hate or whatever, but you know, the women, they really play the game the right way. They're so fundamental. And for basketball purists, it's just a beautiful thing to watch women play. And that's on both the NCAA level and in the WNBA. So shout out to all the women basketball players on whatever level, from you know Pee Wee to high school to college to the WNBA. Shout out to all the female basketball players, man. What y'all do is awesome, man, and I'm a huge fan. And yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's it, man. I think we covered everything. Like I said, Thursday, NBA draft coverage. My birthday. Be there, be square.
NBA
Follow
draft, NBA draft birthday bash.
the That's what we gonna put on the banner at the bottom, bro.
Swan
Oh
Don's
man.
NBA draft / birthday bash. Yeah, we'll have fun with it.
Word. Much love. Might even have a couple guests.
Oh
Probably gonna
yeah,
have a couple guests. So
couple
yeah,
interesting guys.
so yeah. But much love to everybody. Don't forget this Thursday we will be back. Much love. God bless.
And then
And
we'll,
we'll
we'll
see you Thursday.
see you Thursday.